Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Monday. How you doing? Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, today's Monday, March 16th. 75 days into the new year, 290 days left. We are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. Kind of hot today. Truth Funders. Do you have a book, an expedition, an invention, or a paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the number one source of backing your project into the fringe. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, KGRA The Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is up, everybody? It is Monday. Let's get this show cracking. Big proud salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. Think about it. Welcome to everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. Don't forget my mantra. Always do the right thing. Life gives you two choices every single day. You either do the right thing or the wrong thing, and you know the difference. It's harder and not as much fun to do the right thing, I get that. But you run clean and centered. All right, let's go. Big show tonight. Larry Warren will be live with us from Liverpool, UK. The bottom of the hour, along with Peter Robbins, his partner in crime. Peter's joining us from New York. Been waiting to get these two together on the show at the same time for over a year. Tonight, it's happening. Tonight is a very big special event. Oh, yeah. Larry Warren, Peter Robbins, right here on Fade to Black. Had a great time, Fader Cinema, over the weekend. Man, oh man, double feature. Good times. Good times. If you want to join, faders.org, www.faders.org. It's free. It's fun. Become a Fadernaut today. There's a 10% off coupon for all of the Fadernauts on all of the Fader gear. Just use the code NAUT, N-A-U-T 15 will get you 10% off all of your Fader gear. Go get her done. All right, Studio Dome, that promo's still going on. As long as we keep cranking out these speakers to all the Fadernauts, they're going to keep this going. They are very happy. They are so thankful for all of you Fadernauts over at Studio Dome. So just go to jimmychurchradio.com. The banner's right there. Click on the Studio Dome speaker. It's right below the player for the show. And if you're at the website right now, you see it. Go click on it. Go check it out. Studio Dome SD1. Holding it right here in my hand. I'm not kidding. Here it is. Listen. That's how heavy this thing is. The thing is a beast. SD1, Bluetooth, voice-activated speaker for your smartphone, your tablet, laptop, all that Bluetooth stuff you got cruise on. The only way to hear my voice is with this guy right here. All right? And then if you have an intruder in the house in the middle of the night, this is how you get rid of them. You whack them with this thing. Promo code Jimmy, Jimmy, gets you $40 off the list price of $99.99. That's $59.99, and you get free shipping. I'm serious. Go do it now. Contact in the Desert. This will be our last week of drawings. This is it. This Thursday. That's right. We have given away 15 tickets so far. 15. 15 times 400. You do the math. It's a lot of bread. Giving them away on this show. We're going to do another 5 this week. That will give everybody a month to get your lodging and transpo set up out to Joshua Tree. Contact in the Desert, May 29th through the 31st. Everybody's going to be there. You want to be there. George Norrie, Eric Von Daniken, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Richard Dolan, John Anthony West, Linda Moulton Howe, Nick Redfern, Lynn Katai. I'm just off the top of my head. And we are going to broadcast May 29th, that Friday, live from Joshua Tree. We're going to be in the Nexus Room. It's going to hold about 200 people. And we're going to have, 12, 14 guests on the show. You want to see a show like this broadcast nationwide? Check it out. Come to Contact in the Desert. You've got to make it out. Enter the contest right now, jimmychurchradio.com. Go over to the website, see the banner, click on it, get over, enter. 5 more people will be drawn this Thursday. You want to be one of those names called. I'm telling you, this is the event all year. You do not want to miss this event. All right? Last week, KGRA and Fade to Black started our quest to take over the world. This week, it continues 1 day at a time. We now have 5, 6, 7 different ways to listen to the show. We have Spreaker, we have TalkStream Live, tune in. You can go to the KGRA website, Live 365. We have the podcast, we have YouTube, soon iHeartRadio. Let's get this show cracking. Fired up. Larry Warren and Peter Robbins will be with us at the bottom of the hour. And this is the missing link. When it comes to Rendlesham, I've had everybody on this show. We've had Halt. We've had Peniston. We've had Burroughs. We've had Linda Moulton Howe. We've had Nick Pope. We've had all the element, of course, Peter Robbins, about 10 times. Always. And tonight, for the first time, Larry Warren will be joining us. And without Larry, there is no Rendlesham. I need you to think about that. Tonight's going to be one of those shows. For all of you new listeners that are joining us tonight for the first time, all of you Larry Warren backers out there that have heard that he's going to be on this show tonight, let me tell you what this show is. This show is a long-form conversation between friends. That's what this show is about. Little music, little film, little TV, little ufology, little Egypt. We get it all in. Gobekli Tepe. There you go. There you go, Twitter. There you go. All right? And so it's a long-form conversation. Get comfortable. Get your drink. Fire up a heater. Get comfortable. Pull up the blankie and get ready. Turn out the lights because the studio is dark here. And that's what it is. It's going to be one of those nights tonight. This is the night that you're going to be talking about tomorrow. All right? So just get comfortable. It's going to be excellent. Let's get this show cracking. Today, happy birthday to Dairy Queen. 75 years old today. Oh, man, love me some Dairy Queen. We don't have Dairy Queen here in Southern California. We got one in the valley, over in Simi Valley, about 30 miles from the house. That's how far I have to drive to get me some DQ. There are rumors that there is one now in Burbank. I still haven't seen it. So there you go. I've driven out where people have, I can't find that DQ. So we don't have DQ here. All of you across the United States, you know, you grow up with DQ right around the corner. There's one everywhere. You can go and get your DQ on. I can't do that. Think about that. For me to get a chocolate dip cone, I got to go to Mackie D's. There you go. Kills me. All right. Today, rapper and Public Enemy #1, Flavor Flav, 56 years old. Looks 96. Flavor Flav. I love Flav. Okay, just let's make that very clear right now. I tease. I kid. 56 years old. Today, Jerry Lewis, the Jerry Lewis, is 89 years old. Owns half of the Valley. Game show host Chuck Woolery, 74 years old. That's right. Love connection. Love Chuck Woolery. 2 and 2. We'll be back. 2 and 2. Chuck Woolery, 74 years old. Looks pretty good, too, for 74. He's always looked good. You knew he was going to grow old the right way. He's got those genes. Our dead guy's birthday today. Kevin Smith. Not that Kevin Smith. This Kevin Smith, who you know. 1963 to 2002, died at the age of 39. He's a New Zealand actor who starred as the Greek god of war, Ares. In the TV series Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, he was in Xena, Warrior Princess, and he was in Young Hercules. That's right. Ares. Kevin Smith. Early in 2002, he climbed a prop tower on the set of another film. He climbed it, lost his footing, and fell several stories. He died on the 15th of February without ever regaining consciousness. And also, today, actress Mercedes McCambridge. Who is Mercedes McCambridge? You know who she is. 1916 to 2004, she died at the age of 87. Who Orson Welles called one of the world's greatest living radio actresses. She was the demon's voice in The Exorcist. That's right. You know Mercedes McCambridge. I'm not going to quote any lines from the film, but that's who she is. Happy birthday, Mercedes. You're up there right now. All right. What time is it? Am I good? Am I on schedule? Did I pull it off? All right, Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. At Church Radio. At JChurchRadio. Come hang out in the sandbox. Get yourself some tweet deck going. Hashtag F2B is the column that you want. That's the sandbox for Twitter. At JChurchRadio. Come follow us. Come hang out in the sandbox. You want to become a fade or not? That is stage 1. All right, let's see here. Let's check out what happened to Story Musgrave. Well, he'll be on in another day. Working on that for next week, actually. Ed from the Fort, that was pretty good. I like the vision there. Ed Powers says, will Dairy Queen be mentioned? Yes. Hey, there you go. Will they be mentioned in the birthdays tonight? Yes. That came in a few minutes ago. They are 75 years old. Yes, they are. Klaatu just said, rest in peace, Kevin Aries Smith. Yeah, he was in China working on one of the river. That's right. There you go. Yeah, man, I dug Kevin. He played the role so well. He played the role everywhere he went. He was on like three, maybe 4 television series. He was getting ready to make his big break with I'm brain freezing right now. Bruce Willis. He was doing a Bruce Willis film, and that was it, man. He was getting ready to do the big time, and then boom. Rumors has it like he was waiting for a taxi or something at a party on the set back to his hotel, and he didn't do it. He decided to walk and climb the tower, and the rest is history. Yeah, there you go. So follow us on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. If you got anything you need to email, you feel like you need to get it done, I'm looking at it now. Yes, they're coming in. Email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. You can also go over to the contact page on the website where we use non-NSA, specially encrypted servers. That's it. Let's take a quick break. Got to pay the bills here at Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. When I come back, I will have all of the news that you know nothing about. Trust me, if you're a new listener, the best 15 minutes of radio is about to come up here right after the break. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network, KGRA.com. the planet. I'm your Oklahoma host, Jimmy Church. Do not touch that mouse. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously. Give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Fade to Black, the Monday edition. Tonight, Larry Warren, Peter Robbins. It's about time. Fired up. Fired up. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email to Jimmy@JimmyChurchRadio.com. Get her done. Let's get to it. The news that you know nothing about. Yeah. Last year, Jimmy Kimmel did the UFO dance with former President Bill Clinton. The topic of supposed UFOs and aliens at Area 51. And now, that's right, he did it with Obama. If you remember with Clinton, last year he said, if I was president, I'd demand to see all the classified files on UFOs because I want to know. I'd want to know what has been going on. Did you do that? And Clinton said, sort of. Now, with Obama, pretty much did the same thing. He said, if I was the president, I would immediately race to wherever they have the files on Area 51 and UFOs. I'd go through everything to find out what happened. Did you do that? Obama's response, that's why you will not be president, because that's the first thing that you would do. And he went on to say, the aliens won't let it happen. You'd reveal all of their secrets, and they'd exercise strict control over us. Obama went on to say, I can't reveal anything. Now, when Kimmel pressed Obama, telling him how Clinton claimed to have looked into government files on UFOs and found nothing, Obama replied, well, you know, that's what we're instructed to say, end quote. Felt a little funny to me. And there were parts of it where Obama was trying to joke. I get that. And then there's a couple times where he's straight-faced. And I get that too. And I'm just wondering what is really going on. If you're going to joke about it, you got to remember, things are never, ever what they seem. Prosecutors now say that real estate heir Robert Durst, this is breaking news right before the show, subject of HBO's The Jinx, which I am completely addicted to. The last episode was last night. They now say that he was lying in wait when he shot and killed a woman in 2000. He is now eligible for the death penalty, according to a complaint filed right now in Los Angeles County. Prosecutors allege that millionaire real estate heir Robert Durst was lying in wait, this is the quote in the press release today, when he shot and killed Susan Berman right here in Benedict Canyon, right here in Southern California in December 2000 because, I'm quoting here, she was witness to a crime, end quote. That's right. They filed the charges today, first-degree murder. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but here in Southern California, L.A., this has been all day long news. Radio, television, all day long onslaught is going on now. I want to know in Twitter right now, is this what the rest of the country is talking about? Is this what's going on in Memphis, Chicago, New York, Miami, Atlanta, Texas, Arizona? Let me know. I want to know. Washington, Oregon, Minneapolis. Is this what is being talked about all around the country? It is huge news here. And it's kind of strange to me how they waited until the end of the series last night to arrest Durst in New Orleans and immediately waived extradition out here to L.A. They just want to come out. Now it turns out when they arrested him, he had a 38 in his hotel room. So now he's got those charges he has to deal with in New Orleans, and it doesn't look like he's going to make it out here anytime soon. Very strange. My crystal ball is shortly he's going to have some crazy disease. He's going to have cancer. He's going to have something, and he's going to have a week left to live. Something's going on here. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't have any secret info, nothing like that. I'm just saying it's just kind of weird. The whole slip up, I killed them all. You know, it's feeling a little bit funny. And now it turns out the police have something on him here. They do. For them to say that he was lying in wait, they got something. And we're going to find out some more. Crazy story. Crazy. Nuts. And have you been watching The Jinx? The Jinx? Oh, man. I've got them all. We've been re-watching them, actually. All right. What else do I got here? It's hard to believe, but the world's oldest .com address still exists. And it's turning 30 this Sunday. The domain name, are you ready? Symbolics.com. SYMBOLICS, symbolics.com. It's still accessible, although barely any of the functions and stuff on the site, I was there today, are available, but you can go to it. Yep. The domain was first bought by a company with the same name, Symbolics, on March 15th, 1985. It was a company best known for developing a computer language called Lisp. Now, remember, it was bought March 15th, 1985. Then it had to go live. It was a company best known for developing a computer language called Lisp and went public at one point, but the company ended up filing for bankruptcy in 1993. Now it's privately held. In 2009, Symbolic sold the domain to a company called XF.com. XF.com Investment kept the site alive, and its CEO, Aaron Meistedt, told Network World that Symbolics.com still gets several hundred to several thousand visitors a day. There you go. I have avoided commenting on or reporting on the Hillary email scandal because, to me, one thing is clear. If you're working for the government, federal, state, or local level, it doesn't matter, everybody should use an official email account. Period. That's my view. That's why I don't think this is news. But that being said, this isn't a Hillary issue. It's not a Democrat issue, which is what the media seems. I feel it this way. I get that vibe, and it's quite simply not. Jeb Bush, Sarah Palin, Karl Rove, Colin Powell, and other Republican officials have all used private email for government business. This is an across the aisle issue. Everybody needs to be held accountable with a government official, whether it's state, federal, local, doesn't matter, official email address. And waiting 7 years for old emails to be released is just wrong. You need to be held accountable. That's it. That's the end of the story. That's the Hillary story. That's what mass media needs to be reporting on. More than 45,000 Russian troops, as well as warplanes and submarines, started military exercises across much of the country today, and one of the Kremlin's biggest shows of force since its ties with the West plunged to Cold War lows. President Vladimir Putin called the Navy's Northern Fleet to full combat readiness, and exercises in Russia's Arctic North apparently aimed at dwarfing military drills in neighboring Norway. The order came from Putin, who has promised to spend more than 21 trillion rubles, that's $340 billion, by the end of the decade to overhaul Russia's fighting forces. And they need it because they're broken down. And he'd better hurry up, because in about a month, it's going to be 42 trillion rubles in their current economic condition. Russia's drills, that's the way I write the news. You like that? Russia's drills will include nearly 40,000 servicemen, 41 warships, and, get this, 15 submarines. That's what they say. 15 submarines. From where? Somebody please tweet. How many active submarines do the Russians have that are actually running, that actually go up and come down, that can cruise out of a port with sailors on board? How many do they really have? Somebody tweet that for me. Look that up. I didn't have time today. Obamacare has led to the biggest decrease in the numbers of Americans lacking health insurance in 4 decades, with minorities and young adults seeing the largest gains in coverage. That's right. The feds said this today. A total of 16.4 million previously uninsured adults nationwide obtained health coverage since the Affordable Care Act became law, according to the Department of Health and Human Services. And the uninsured rate among adults dropped from 20.3% to 13.2% from October 2013 until March 4th of last week. That's right, during which Obamacare marketplaces have been selling health plans. That is a 35% reduction in the rate of people without health coverage. As of this month, there were about 26 million American adults without health insurance, compared to about 40 million without coverage just before Obamacare insurance marketplaces launched in the fall of 2013. Again, this is not a political show. It is not. I'll tell you what, though. I'm a family guy, and it just makes me feel better that families are being covered out there. I don't care how it gets done. I mean, it's something that has to happen. I don't care. Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter to me. I just believe in this country and the children here. All right? I just had to report that. I felt a little good when I read that today. It's probably skewed, but nonetheless. Though powdered alcohol, do you guys know what powdered alcohol is? Does anybody know what powdered alcohol is? Let's fire up Twitter right now. Have you heard of powdered alcohol? Powdered alcohol has been approved for sale by the Federal Tax and Trade Authority. Many state and some federal legislators are now alarmed, and they are seeking to ban the product before it ever hits the shelves. Earlier this week, the U.S. Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau approved the sale of palcohol in vodka, rum, cosmopolitan, and powderita flavors, with the lemon drop still pending. In response, the Utah State Legislature adopted a bill banning the product, while New York State Senator Charles Chuck Schumer introduced a law that would ban it at the federal level. Alaska, Colorado, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, South Carolina, and Vermont have already banned powdered alcohol or have pending legislation that would do so. What is it? It's exactly what you think. You get a glass of water, rip open the pouch, and pour in yourself a drink. I didn't get to the rest of the news. I got to get to Larry Warren. and Peter Robbins. This is Fade to Black. That's all the news you know nothing about. If I got some time, I got about 4 or 5 more stories. Maybe get to them at the end of the show. Man, they were good ones, too. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'm going to come after this short break. Larry Warren's going to join us live from Liverpool, UK. Peter Robbins from New York. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fader Knots. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy, Gobekli Tepe. All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network. KGRA, The Planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. It's time to light the fires and kick the tires. Got Larry Warren with us, live from Liverpool, UK. We've got Peter Robbins with us. Larry, who used the pseudonym Art Wallace, was a member of the U.S. Air Force Security Police stationed at an American base on British soil. He is known for his involvement in the Rendlesham Force incident, published a book on this event co-authored with Peter Robbins, Left at East Gate. This is required reading for all Fader Knots. In late December 1980, over a period of 3 days, there were reports of unexplained lights near Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk, England. Warren was taken from his guard post to investigate strange lights in the forest clearing near the base. Here, he and other enlisted men and officers confronted an alien craft on the ground. In addition, the base deputy commander, Colonel Charles Halt, has come forward to verify some of these details in this case and has led it to being called the British Roswell, one of the most talked about UFO cases of all time. Peter Robbins is an investigative writer, author, activist, best known for his UFO-related papers, columns, articles, editorials, commentaries, conference lectures, and media appearances. He is a regular fixture on American radio and has appeared as a guest on and been a consultant to numerous television shows, documentaries, including Fade to Black. I would like to welcome to the program, this is an event, people, Larry Warren and Peter Robbins. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. How are you?
How are you, Larry? Do we still have...
I'm okay, man. Great to be on your show. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. I am honored and humbled,
I'm
sir. It looks like we have lost Peter. Let me bring Peter back in.
No, he's too young to go.
Yeah, man. Here he goes. Let's see here. There he is. Let's bring him back in.
It's that Skype craziness, Jimmy. Phones work just fine.
Larry, he was just like, hey, Jimmy didn't greet me. I'm out of here, And
well, his bio is not the briefest of things. I wish I had a different bio had gone to you, because was that a Wikipedia thing?
Well, it was. Well, I wrote most of it myself.
Oh, right on. That's okay.
Yeah.
You did it.
Well,
I never call myself Art Wallace. That was, there's so many I didn't do, but it gets out there as fact, and that's not your fault. But that was a guy named Barry Greenwood, and the first book Rendlesham was ever in was a book called Clear Intent, and it was by Larry Fawcett and Barry Greenwood, and that was 1983, and it was the first time an account of Rendlesham and the Halt memo, Colonel Halt's pretty historic memo there, was in it. And so I just said, I don't want my name used until other people. I'm the whistleblower on the thing. You wouldn't know that since 2010, but I've been around 32 public years, I think, trying to fight this thing and, get it out there. And now it's out. It's caused celeb, and people that weren't bothered with it for many years are now acting like they were, such allies for it for so long, some of the shining lights. And, but I never used the name Art Wallace. This guy, Barry Greenwood, made it up. And it has always, and he just put it in the book instead of using my name. And it has stuck for 33 years where, you were Art Wallace. I had never that. I just didn't want my name used.
Well, I always wanted to ask you who Art Wallace was. Hey, Peter, are you with? Peter's still trying to connect here. And I always wanted to ask you where that name came from. This, but you didn't come up with that name.
No, I had nothing to do with that. That was Barry Greenwood. And it was, but Art Wallace, which really helped, you just don't get a break in this stuff, is a writer of science fiction. So, they're beautiful, beautiful. And this was a postman up in Massachusetts. It was a nice book. It was about, you got to understand, I knew Alan Hynek. I mean, I've been around for many years. I haven't lived in America in 15 years, but these events have taken on a life of their own. There's many camps in it now. There's, it's staggering, really. I mean, if I stand back and look at all the different sideshows that go on with it, but what really gets me is a lot of the folks, more so in the States, they don't get away with it here because England's small and I can track people down pretty easy and kind of correct them, if they're taking credit for anything even anyone else did. In the States, I see a lot of people sticking their nose in that shouldn't be. Or as they say here in Liverpool, putting their oar in.
Right.
They should pull it out. I'm not real popular on the circuit. I pretty much just say what's on my mind, and it's usually pretty much true. That's the problem. That doesn't go down too well. But it's an honor to be on your show. Did we find Peter?
I'm actually, one of my producers is coming in. Hang on for a second. Call cool. Peter and have him call me. I can't dial him out. Yeah. He knows what to do. There you go. You got to love live radio, right?
I love radio.
Oh, hey, Larry. Okay, now look, I've been so excited to get you on. Now let's back up a step. Because you don't do a whole lot of radio, and you're the mysterious figure out there. We have a large audience.
Not really.
Well,
yeah, I know it seems that way. It's the big problem nowadays is that being in your mid-50s, the kids, it's the Skype craziness. I call, what are the little square things with lights on it? My son's always hidden in his room with that thing. What is it, an iPad?
Yeah, iPad.
Is that such thing? I'm happy writing 1978 as a date. It makes sense to me. All this nonsense. Now it's lost me. I'm way behind the curve. So I'm not that mysterious, and I live in England. I do some smaller shows. It's the Skype thing that I have to go to my friend's house to do it because they know what they're doing. You could show me 30 times, I won't know it.
Totally.
The aliens didn't teach me all this great wisdom.
Yeah, well, now it's just not. cell phones were such a big deal. Now it's Skype. It's the internet. It's Twitter. It's Facebook. It's Pinterest. It's all over the place. It's not just one or two things you need to get a grasp on now.
It can leave you behind really easily nowadays. So you need a 5-year-old on hand all the time to help you with these things, I think.
Well, for everybody that doesn't know a whole lot about your background, I know a little bit, and you and I have talked, and we have a lot of common ground between us.
Absolutely, man.
But for everybody, your family, before Rendlesham, before all of that, before you were in the Air Force, you come from a total 100% musical background with your family, your dad, and all of those connections that you have. Let's start there. What was it like growing up in a music family, and what did your dad do?
My dad was involved in a lot of different, people like Bobby Darin and, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, the big bands, Herb Albert and who were actually Jewish guys from New York. They weren't Mexicans. And, and then, the A&M bunch out there. I don't know if that's still there. And is the A&M barn still there? I don't know. Is it gone now?
Which one?
A&M Records?
Well, now it's, I thought that's what you said. A&M is still there, but now it's Henson. It's Jim Henson Studios.
Right. But we grew up around all that, and I got to see the Beatles in '66. And
I think so. Hold it a sec.
Yeah, hold on. Peter's finally with us. Peter.
Here I am.
Okay, welcome to the program. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, for once I'm on, and you had trouble.
yeah, I know, right? Okay, so A&M Records. Well,
I mean, just a lot of stuff. My dad was in, he was a very successful businessman, and he's retired. He's an older guy now. And my parents split up in the 60s, so we had some very interesting things as a kid. There was a place, Maryknoll, and I can remember Mama Cass Elliott chasing my sister and me around it was in a monastery, a place for nuns brought from China to Westchester, New York. And I can remember her with her big muumuu gown chasing us around. That was a lot of fun. But so you'd have that kind of thing go on, and I got trapped in a fun house with and Jim Morrison. It was the Dutchess County Fair, and that was we didn't know who he was, but he was and scary as hell. And it was one of these walk-in fun houses where they must have had people grabbing I don't know, but it was him, a big hippie as I saw it, and two crazy women, and my sister and me, a few other people. And we were around the Woodstock weekend as the artists were all flying out and to the sites. And there were, it was things, like I remember I thought Jimi Hendrix was Link from the Mod Squad. You remember that actor, Clarence, what was his name?
Oh,
Clarence
yeah,
something?
Link. Yeah.
Clarence
Link.
something the third.
Yeah, Clarence something the third,
like
yes.
But I thought he was Jimi Hendrix. I thought Hendrix was him, because the Mod Squad I watched, and I was too hip with the
Clarence
Hendrix.
Williams the third.
Yeah, Clarence
That's the
Williams.
guy, man. And he's still working.
Jesus.
So I had all that. But then in the high school time, Jimmy, just like you, it was the rock and roll bands, and you start out, you're very bad, and you say, well, I'm going to be in a band, and I'm going to it's a good job, and I think the girls, everything John Lennon ever said, it was, girls are running after you, it's a good job, like when he saw Elvis in the movies here in Woolton at the Picture House that's still here, actually. And, and went through, I was an ice hockey player, and I was probably heading that way, but then I went to live with my mom, and there was no ice hockey program, so it was pretty much the bands, and I had that freedom, which is really cool to do that. Great guys, a lot of them are still playing, and some, a few of them made it, but I just found, I found my way into kind of with people that are icons now, but really struggled a long time to make it. Stevie Ray Vaughan, you name it, right? Robert Plant, you go down the list and list and list, and I'm very honored. It's really cool. Paul McCartney, you stand there like in awe, and that's when he was with the wooden leg first wife. It was the last one he was married to. He does not choose his girlfriends well, but now I guess he's doing all right with the new lady who owns most of Long Island, from what I hear. Good for her. And, and Paul's here often in Liverpool. He has a lair that comes up, and he has a house in Heswall, which is over the water here, over the Mersey in Birkenhead, and he's here all the time. I know his brother Michael and his cousin Kate Robbins, and who's a comedian in England, and Jerry Marsden's here still, and Jerry's a nice guy, and Pete Best, which is kind of mind trippy because you go out with if you're in a pub, which I'm, occasionally am. There's people that, if they're in their 60s or 70s, I mean, they all grew up with those guys, and they all have very varied opinions on all of them, or like the Searchers they like better, or the Big Three, and it's just madness, living here. Can you take it for granted? I go through Penny Lane often, and I see the shelter and the roundabouts there, and the barber shop, and and you're thinking, good God, it's really weird, but it's a good city, and it's growing. But I had a good time as a younger guy, and and all the bad times that go with being younger people, and it wasn't all showbiz and razzle-dazzle all the time. But what I will say is I had some very strange experiences since I was a child, and I didn't come from a family where UFOs were talked about at all, and I wouldn't say there was close. It just wasn't brought up in our house. My sister and I are adopted, and we're proud of that. We're very months old. And, just a pretty normal life. Parents got divorced, and, who hasn't nowadays? And, I mean, I've done that twice. It's the in thing. And then, why I went in the Air Force, and you think, wouldn't you stick with this band? I mean, we had a really good group going in the late 70s, and a lot of people were into us. It's kind of like the mix between the Dead and the Eagles, and I keep promising we're going to all get together, and I mean, the Stones can do it, why not us? But sure. I got a bit of a commute to play with the fellas, but I went in the Air Force, and I tell my son, there's a catalyst, why would you do it? Well, I didn't want to go in the Navy because I got seasick horrendously once, and I just had no desire. The Army or the Marines. But I knew I went to school in England for a year, in the year before the Air Force, here in Essex, Billericay near London. And that would change my life, being able to do it. I wasn't the best student in the world. We were very lucky to be able to do that. And, again, from a normal, dysfunctional, normal family, anybody, it wasn't a woo-woo kind of crazy bunch of people running around, and paranormal stuff was definitely not on the table in any of my relatives. Even to this day it isn't. I'm the one in the family, oh dear. I never get many posts from them on my stuff. Supportive, but at a distance. You can't blame people. It's very common with people in the subject matter, where the family reactions. I have members of my family I don't speak to, and I mean, I have friends that vanished many, many years ago. Just some people can't go there. They just can't do it, and that's fine. That's life.
So you chose the Air Force because it was the safest and best choice out of the four branches.
Well, it could get me back to England. I was the last person in the United States Air Force to get a guaranteed country of choice, and that's what my recruiter told me. That so I was the last guy, and I chose England, and I signed up for 6 years. And so, the thing is, when they try to play this off or on these shows, or not just me, Larry Warren, or there's many guys, not just Peniston, Burroughs, me, and Halt. There's many people involved in this that went through different elements of it. And they're wise, and I talk to them privately on my Facebook quite often. They're very real people. But who wants their teeth kicked down their throat,
Right.
No one does. And
well, let's before we get there, Larry, I want to set this up a little bit, and then we'll pick up after the break. But before we get there, so before the Air Force, before you got to England, had you ever had a sighting, or not your family, yourself personally? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. I had, and I wrote, by the way, folks, my part's the left at Eastgate. Peter wrote his. It's, witnesses can actually put pen to paper, and Peter did a brilliant, it was a collaboration. I just want to say that. And, Travis Walton wrote his own book, too, so, we're not flakeheads. We can do all this. And if you're a listener and you want to do it, you do it, too. There's no magic in any of it. The magic in books is getting paid, just like the music business, getting paid for your work, because the suits actually are pretty good at making sure that don't happen.
Right,
but, yes,
right.
I did, as you know, Joe. But as a child, I had very extraordinarily strange things, saw beings that definitely weren't human beings. And I'm getting older. I mean, it's in our book, and I can remember someone telling me. I mean, Whitley Strieber was the guy that told me, and he was researching communion. He was 2 years before the publication of it, about 84, and he said, you should write a book, because I'd already been misrepresented by 1984 in a few books already. And so he said, write a book. I said, oh, that'll be a lark, and easy, and it wasn't. So, yes, I've had very strange things that I still remember very clearly in my home, outside of it as a child. I've had, I grew up in the Hudson Valley, and it is probably the largest percentage of sightings, abductions, the abduction phenomena, the largest amount on record. It's a massive cluster in the Hudson Valley, and there's a lot I'm looking into right now. There's a girl named Zimmerman in America that deals with all that. She's quite interesting. Linda Zimmerman. I don't know her because I've been away for years. But I grew up right in the heart of it. You've heard of Pine Bush, New York. I didn't grow up far from that. Stewart Air Force Base. My dad used to take me on that when the fighter jets were silver with orange nose cones. Real early 60s. And then, but also Stewart Air Force Base at that time was one of 3 Project Blue Book reporting bases in the United States. Can you believe that? And I lived right next to it. Crow's distance away. And then the Hudson Valley overflights and massive sightings in the early 80s. I saw the thing in Connecticut myself. If you're a smoker, you see UFOs. You're outside, because no one wants to be inside with you. And, look around, man. The stuff, they mimic aircraft. They'll mimic the lighting. They can put sounds on them. It's fantastic. I think there was a major operation going on in, upstate New York, or just Orange County, New York, no doubt. And I grew up right in the heart of it, and I think I was interfered with, and I think probably thousands of others were, and thousands of others are. It's a real ugly game going on. It's quite scary.
Yeah, the Hudson...
Rendlesham, I didn't need Rendlesham, and I always say to people, I never needed it at all. I would have been happy without it, totally.
Yeah, the Hudson Valley... wave still to this day when I read those accounts, and there's some video and audio stuff out there, but it's a pretty compelling the debunking of it, what was it, like some kind of ultralight
ultralight aircraft, and they were flying in formation with these lights. But the fact of the matter, and I think Linda Zimmerman again, she's written some books. She'd be a great guest for you, kiddo, I'll tell you, because I've listened to her on the, YouTube over here, and a lot's changed in the States in that scene since I've been away, but she's fascinating. She knows her beams on it. Pete might know her personally. I don't know her. But you can't fly ultralights at night, and yet the feds allowed this. They were flying them up there to kind of say, this is what they're seeing. I stood under Jimmy in 1986 in New Britain, Connecticut, under a thing that was probably, you hear aircraft carrier size. Well, I did, cops did. Well, it was seen all over central Connecticut, and it was about 500 feet above me. I could see the welds and bolts and this and that. And I stood under another thing down in Slidell, Louisiana, with a guy named Bill Robbins and his wife, and Peter Warnock, who's never talked about the subject again. The guy folded like a deck chair. And I photographed the thing. I'll send you pictures. I stood right under it. I could have thrown rocks at it, and the thing was massive. It was a small town, this guy. Amazing.
I've
had amazing stuff. I never needed Rendlesham. That is a whole different bag. There was a lot of federale weirdness. I don't know if it's aliens. I've never said that. I've never said, and if Chuck's out there listening, show me where I've ever said little green man, ever. I mean, I've had to have lawyers. Oh, man. You see, it's the most ugly. I always say it's toxic, because Rendlesham is an ugly bunch of people in it. It's an ugly series of events because it involves the federales. It's done nothing but damage to myself. Everything Burroughs going through, I pursued 30 years ago. It's all documented in our book. My records are classified, and yet they're not throwing awards at me at conferences. They can keep them, baby. I'm happy with what I did. I got the thing out, and I was supposed to. But we all got damaged by it. And I think certain officers out there have guilty conscience. I don't know.
Sure. We're up against a break, and so we'll do that in a second. And we're talking with Larry Warren live from Liverpool. Big event tonight. Peter Robbins live from New York. And everybody, the typing that you hear is not me. That's Peter. I just slapped his hand in text. We'll be back. We'll be back right after this break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Larry. I just have to know before we get into Rendlesham. I have to know how much Aquanet did he use in his interviews in 1980. Peter, you know the TV show. You know the TV show I'm talking about.
Oh man, that was some bad hair thing going on.
No,
there.
It was Danny.
Hey, you're in the hair bands, man. What are you saying, sure? Come on, man.
Danny Terrio has nothing on you, Larry.
Oh, dance fever, baby.
There's some shows that should just never surface ever again.
This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Larry Warren, Peter Robbins. Larry is live from Liverpool, UK. Peter's live from New York. I'm here in Burbank, California. And you got to love technology. This is bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Hey, guys, let's do this, Larry. You and I were talking off air, and one of the things that you had said to me, and I was like, wow, I never thought of it in those terms. which is those guys were MPs, Peniston and Burroughs and what they did. You were actually in a special security detail, and you worked directly with Halt. Am I correct in that? And there's a definition that defines your different roles in this.
Yeah, exactly. In our job at Bentwaters, I was 81130, which was security specialist. So what we'd be near the assets, the aircraft, the nuclear weapons that we had on that base, and I could care less. We do, and that makes it defense significant. Over here, it's a big issue. They still, half the guys that went through it don't even say we had them. But, a couple of them call me a traitor. Fine, so be it. We had nukes. That makes it a defensive issue. We worked, you wouldn't see us. John was like a police that you see on the street. And they carried sidearms. Back then it was 38s, I think. And we carried M16s, M203 grenade launchers, M60 machine guns. And we're all fully, I just want to make a point. I've heard certain individuals from this thing say, he could not have been, all this crap. Listen, I have more backup and people with me than any of them. These are the myths that get spun in the United States, my old hometown, my old home country, And it's a shame because if people just do a little bit of their own, I could care less what people think, but I did what I did. I'm very proud of it, Peter. Without Peter, it wouldn't have gotten done, but I started doing it right out of the gate. And we were combatants, John and Jim were, and they were in the military many years. But at that time, John was an airman first class, just like I was. Knew him a little bit. You couldn't miss him. Halt, I never worked with. He wasn't police, but he would come around the police a lot. So I did know who he was, and I did encounter Colonel Halt. And he was a nice guy, for an officer. I was rather friendly. He liked the police. I encountered him a few times. He found me in a refrigerator one time in the female barracks. Was trying to hide and offered him some champagne. I bet he remembers that, too. He was with Richard Bertolino doing a dorm clearance. Oh, dear. But,
you were in a refrigerator.
There was nowhere to go. So I tried to get in it there, and but it didn't work. So I came in, and I said, would you have some champagne? Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm sure he remembers that. I sure do. And that's in our book, actually. But what I did, I went in because of the Iran hostage thing. And that's why I told my son, that's why I enlisted. First of all, because when they took our hostages, that really pissed me off. And I wanted to do something, serve. And, I wasn't heading toward university. I, like yourself, headed off for a career in broadcasting. I went to I see your CSB on your tag, but I think that's the Chicago School of Broadcasting, isn't it?
Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
I'm CSB, too.
Oh, you went to CSB?
Hank Tenney, Bud Stone.
Yeah, so did, you know what?
They were my guys, brother, 1983.
So did Rush Limbaugh, so there you go.
No! What year oh, man.
I know.
Radio Park, Farmington, Connecticut. And they can send me a check. Yeah, absolutely, brother. You and me went to the same. Oh, my God. That's back when you had to do the editing on the tape, donuts, reels, and oh, my God. But anyway, fantastic small world. I knew I liked you. I thought maybe it was Chicago.
Yeah,
but I went in the Air Force for that. But when you got to our base, you have basic training, then you have the Security Police Academy at Lackland Air Base. You're pretty well-versed to head your base. And many of the guys I was in training with went to Bentwaters. Now, the difference is I did not, my PRP, which is Personal Reliability Program, and it's to work around nukes, had not come through. So that third badge that you wear, I couldn't work in the WSA until that came in. But before that, I was in vehicle patrols, not driving, riding, and I was on posts alert man positions, and so I was on. It's on-the-job training. You got 2 weeks of training on Woodbridge, and then you're put out on flight. And I have all that paperwork, it's all in my book, and it Halt's seeing it, And you have Sergeant Bastinza, who was with me, put out a statement 2 years ago. He goes, yes, he was there. I was all over the place. You have Greg Batchin. Come on. They all got to stop playing these silly games. A lot of things happen to a lot of different people. And it wasn't just the events, my man. I don't know if it was from outer space. I've never said that. Never said it was aliens. But I saw a life form that I believe I saw a life form, but I never said it was little green men. There's no need for certain retired colonels to keep saying that, tongue-in-cheek, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I've never said it.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Now let's. Okay, so now that. Leading up to the third night, those first two nights, you know what? Let's go in feet. Let's go in feet first here. Those first two nights, had you heard anything about night number one or anything about night number two?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing going around the base.
No, that's the other myth, fantasy island thing. There was no rumor mill. They've got to stop this crap. There wasn't a rumor mill. If there was a rumor mill, it would have been it would have been press. They were worried about press. I had no idea of anything going on. I will say on the 27th, the third night. That day, I bought a camera, and I think you've seen this picture. And we only found what was in it this past year.
Oh, and you mean the one with the A10 and the that little object above it? Yeah, it's a pretty crazy picture.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, but I will say this: it's exactly what I stood in front of, except more distorted and insane, but 20 feet away from it. But I didn't see it, and I didn't even see the aircraft. I was just testing the plane. We were going, it's a long story. But 34 years.
Well, wait, let's talk.
I had no idea, except that we were in an alert condition, which you've seen that.
Right.
Because I know certain guys from the base say, we weren't in alert, and they're very loyal, and good for them. They got their pensions. Good for them. But we were in alert, and you would be in alert, and it was a tense time with Poland and Russia and all that anyway. But we were in alert, and I've proven it now. I took pictures at strategic times, didn't even know why. And
can we, Larry? Let me. That picture, you've just blown my mind. I didn't know when I first started seeing you post the picture. I thought I didn't know. I didn't look at the provenance. I just knew that you took the picture because you said that you did. But tell me about the. You're saying that you don't remember taking that picture. That all of that was luck, and you were.
No. I went to the base exchange. And I bought a 110 Instamatic camera.
Right.
That day, and because I had one that an old camera and it died, so I went and got one of these cheapy 110 cameras, and we wouldn't have the digital things nowadays,
Right.
And so I went over and bought it, and a friend of ours, a guy named Jim Harper, was driving us to Ipswich to look at amplifiers, Marshall amps, but I think it was a Sunday and everything was shut. But being in the East Coast, I'm thinking everything would be open. And so we just went into Ipswich, and he had the car, and he drove us over to a bus on the other side of Woodbridge, and it got us to Ipswich. And then we wandered around a pretty much deserted, closed town, and then we came back. But on the way out, I snapped the main gate of the base, and it says alert condition. Not that I was thinking, it was just a matter of business. And then I went over to, we got on the back road of Eastgate Road, and then went down that. And as we were going down the east end of Woodbridge Base, I rolled the window down. It wasn't that cold that day. And I snapped up just to the forest. We didn't know what the forest was called. It was just the woods, to us. Rendlesham. Rendlesham Forest, the RFI was known as the Bentwaters incident for so many years.
Right.
And now it's morphed and turned, and it's Britain's Roswell, though it shouldn't be because nothing crashed. But, it's all the tags and circus environment that everyone loves. But, no, I just took a picture, and I can remember things. It's 35 years, and I remember doing it, and went on with her day. And I had, about 4 years ago, a friend of mine, Lindsay, knew how to put these things onto Facebook, so I went to her family's house, and they scanned these things for me because I wouldn't know. And I just have a segment on my Facebook thing that says Bentwaters back in the day. And I have it's a lot of guys I served with. You see Bastenzi, you see all the officers, you'll see everybody. And, just real good shot from back in the day like we all took. And I had that picture, and I said, it's really not that interesting. It's it looks black and white. It's actually in color, and there's an A10. And I wasn't like, oh, boy, look at the A10, because we worked with them every day. They were above us and on the ground every day. Every night there was the sound of them. And so I just took that picture and just went on with her day, not knowing. And 2 days into the events now, 2 days after Eddie, John, and Jim's thing, because Eddie Cabanasac, by the way, I went through training with Edward Cabanasac, and he got there a week after me, and yet he went through the events. Stop this spin, you guys, some of these people. But I had no idea what I had until this guy named Mick Sayer down in, I think he's in Norfolk or somewhere down that way. I just was loading pictures one day. I had a compulsion to do it. Some things you can't explain, and just Bentwaters things. No reason putting them on my page. And I see this note from him that was rather recent. He said, Larry, what's that thing above the picture? I go, I don't know. It looks like a speck of dust. I didn't know. And above the A10. Well, I think Peter remembers this very well because he not only did Bruce Maccabee, who I've known for over 30 years, he comment on it without having it. I don't have the negative now. I'd be hard-pressed to even guess. But I did take the picture, and it's one of these things, and it's hard to see this picture on the radio, folks, but it matches exactly what I've described, what I tried to describe, even the cover of the News of the World newspaper in 1983 and other things. And there it is. And it's not CGI or whatever digital manipulation. I wouldn't know how to do it. I can hardly work a computer. But I just always, you would never have saved this picture, but I just did, and I don't know why. And there it is. And what it is, people can say it's a bug. They can, in the middle of December, and it's actually tens of meters wide, and which would make sense when you stood, because I stood in front of it, the thing. And I don't know what they are, these spaceships. Well, there it is. So that, to me, tells me, personally, and I don't give a darn who thinks what, really, I was there, was that this phenomena was in the area consistently, day and night, during those 3 days.
Larry,
and
with
that's
this,
pretty interesting.
I'm posting this picture right now to Twitter really quick.
Please do, yeah. I don't try to be secret with anything. I put them out. We've never held anything back. I got the Halt memo out, made sure other people over here tried to profiteer off it and did. I never took a penny. We got it out because of me. The whole audio tape, I turned right over to CNN. None of this stuff would be out if I didn't do it, and it would have been in researchers' back pockets in their drawers. And you don't know what I got. And the games, they're terrible over here back then. Those days were very bad in England. They were like 9,000 years behind us. But yet the sightings go on. But the people, you'd just be burned as a witch. It's changed now. But it's still a little behind the curve. You can't, the abduction thing, it's kind of, all the Yanks have the UFO sightings. Sometimes you just want to backhand people like this. But they got a New Yorker in them midst. They keep it together nowadays. If they know what's good for them.
Yeah, I'm looking at this picture now, and the first time that I saw it, I just about fell out of my chair. No joke.
You and me both, Jimmy.
Yeah, totally. When
you can't, it's too good to be true in a way, isn't it?
It is.
Except that it is true.
34. It is real, and it took 34 years. And I always give credit to people that deserve it. And it's actually this real nice guy from a rock and roll background, Boz Burrell. What the hell was the band there? Bad Company. I mean, great. And they're all seemed his town had all these Brit rock stars come from, but he's the guy that saw it. So it's Mick Sayer, thank you, and I think it's important myself. I think the letter I wrote to my mother's, it's historic actually, but we didn't even know that when we were writing our book. It was like we had too much to deal with. Go ahead, guys.
No, Larry, this was what, the day of the incident or the day before?
No, it was approximately 12 hours before
Right.
The third night incidents began. So I was off, and then my shift was coming back on D-Flight. And so there were 4 shifts, and they would rotate. So John and Jim, they weren't on my shifts at all. Jim Peniston runs every way, never ran me.
What
He told me to shut up one day, I'll never forget that, but the day of my thing, but he didn't run me, at all.
Well, the incredible thing, Larry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the incredible thing
Robert
about
Paul.
this picture is this is exactly what you described. This is exactly all of the illustrations that have been out with your encounter for decades, and then this picture pops up, and I'm looking at it, and it's exactly what I've seen you illustrate for years, and it freaked me out. I'm serious. I was just blown away.
Thank you. It freaks me out, too. I mean, the first time, you've heard of Benny Andreasen, the Andreasen affair, and they're the people, after I get out of the Air Force, I got an honorable discharge and all that. I wasn't thrown out, and there was none of that. But I did honor guards and everything, so I saw an article on these people. I thought they were nuts with these aliens and all this. And I ran right to their house. I called her husband. I said, I need to talk to someone other than my family. I went through this thing. But I drew the picture you see on that News of the World cover.
Right.
I drew that, but I never quite finished it because I did it on their coffee table. I don't know where that picture is. But, the funny thing is there's a new movie called Hangar 10 in America, or over here they called it Rendlesham Forest, and good friends of ours are in it. They're nice people. It's a horror movie. It's all right, and it's well done, and Danny Shaler's the actor, and he's a fine actor, and he's moving up there, and the director that did it, Heart in a Good Place, and they all filmed in the forest. But they changed, because the pop culture of Jim Peniston's current thing, because they're making Rendlesham Forest now kind of a Disneyland. They have a little model of what he says he saw. You couldn't make a model of what I saw. And then little trails that have nothing to do with any of the incidents, and that's going to, it's madness. And I kind of resent it because the circus environment in England, and also whatever they do in it, people getting their oar in America that have no right to do it. And there's a lot there. I will say, and here it got big attention, and it should, is I wrote my mother a letter within 6 days of the events. I got cut off from the phone, that famous story.
Yep.
And I was with Greg Battram, and it was actually daytime, not like this new disclosure UFO Declassified coming to America. It was actually in the morning, and the sun was up. And I called my mom, and I got cut off, and I wrote a letter to my mom, and it was 8 pages, and the letter is with the envelope and her response, but it actually lays the whole thing out a week before Halt even typed the Halt memo. And my mother was probably unless other people did it, but I think the first civvy in stateside to hear about it, absolutely, within hours. And then she got my letter. Halt does his memo, so we sandwiched each other in. My letter resembles Halt's memo.
Yes,
it's
it
almost
does.
like he read my well, you should see the whole thing. And you could see, almost like they intercept. I hate to say it. It's like they intercepted my mail and typed the Halt thing, and it's crazy.
Well, they probably did, Larry. Come on, you know that.
Yeah, but I was such a moron then. I wrote to my mom. I said, at the bottom, and that's been being forensically looked at. Is the letter off? Of course it is. In a minute. As the postmark, Robert Salas was Air Force. He goes, yes, everything is correct up and down. But I remember writing it, and I wasn't a letter guy. I wasn't very good at letters. And my mom would always write me, but I saved all this. And then she wrote back, and she just went into a nursing home, my dear mom, but she's still doing all right. They offered her a job. I said, don't do that. They'll throw you out. They'll think you got better. Oh, my mother, Joanne, I'll tell you the stuff she went through, but she's a real strong lady, and all my family are good. They put up with a lot with me and other things, and I'm no saint, man. But I'll tell you what, and I wrote that. But that's actually, it's not because of me. It's not Rendlesham ain't about me, but it's an important record that actually it is a true, real record, authentic, original. Not even no one has an original of Halt's memo. No one. no one has an original of Peniston Burroughs' Eddie Cabanas-X statements.
Exactly.
I've seen Mr. Nick Pope, our old buddy. Actually, we were all good friends with Nick. I'm not going to slam Nick here. He helped me out in a big thing some years ago. So they right there, do what they're going to do. Have a peaceful life. I don't get too mad at Nick. Peter does, but for every good reason. So I think it's more because we're very good friends. We went back so long. You know?
I don't mean to laugh. You know, I'm laughing with you.
It's horrible, this stuff.
But tell me, I've never been able to this point to ask you these questions that I've always wanted to know. When the phone call, what was the conversation that you had with your mom on the phone before you got cut off?
Right. We had a thing called Audubon where you had a free call. So I didn't want to use that because I knew what they know I was talking about this. And I think there was only certain days you could do it. So long ago now. So I went to with Greg Battram, who's from St. Louis, Missouri. I hope he's well, brother, if you're out there. And I said, let's go to the payphone. We had one of those red British classic things near the Chow Hall, and which you never see in England anymore. And I reversed the charges, and I call to the States, and they recreate this in this new television show from Canada. It'll be on the States very soon, I hope. It did quite well in Europe. And I called my mom, I reversed the thing, and my mother answered, and her very good friend, Sue Hickerson. And these two girls would sit up all night and yak or whatever they had, just talk and all that. They were hard-working ladies. And I got my mom, and she goes, hello, and I go, Ma, you won't believe what just happened. And I was already feeling sick from exposure, and a metallic taste in my mouth. My eyes were watering profusely. Greg Battram had been involved also. And I notice he gets attacked by other people. Oh, God help their souls when they have to meet the Lord one day. And I call her, and she just wasn't there. I was talking to her, and she was not there. And so I called the operator back, and I said, I've been cut off. And she goes, are you calling from the base? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you were cut off on the base. And so I hung up. I looked at Greg, and I said, holy, oh, you know what? And I said, I'm in a world of hell right now. So we left, and I was. It turned out that, and that was before we were debriefed. We were debriefed at Malcolm Ziegler's office, not a secret alien underground base where cookies and milk, all this, handshakes out in the woods. I've never said any of these things. That's before we were debriefed. And the debriefing was, with our ranks, and it was Armed Forces Security Service and Richardson, who was a naval commander, which, Peter, am I wrong? He was actually a true, real person. And
that's exactly right. We did the research to confirm that.
In London, which I had I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And the other guys were NSA, and
they shared offices with the Department of Navy in London. I mean, the same building.
Yes. Yeah, and so, but some of this stuff takes decades to figure out, or someone hears about it and say, oh, I know Joe Blow, you're this guy. And, it's not so much what we saw or what we didn't, because I'm not going to speak for those guys. I was with John this past year. He's a nice guy, he's a good dad, and, he just had the settlement there, and I hope that helps him. I want a good health and well-being for everyone, really. I don't wish anyone ill here. But we had actually quite a laugh. It was really nice to hang out with him. But we were all solo artists now. I mean, and unfortunately, the sad thing is, I've always, for 30 years, advocated that we should have a class action lawsuit, or at the very least, we're sitting down. I knew we're all damaged. I have proof of radiac exposure, all kind of things, which could be reflected by everyone else. But I wrote a letter to the Air Force Times, and they didn't publish it, but I was calling for all of this before this was cause celeb and
this was 1985,
and this and that, but it never happened. So I've been really fighting from day one. I'm the guy that got it out. That's all I can say. When they said, "Oh, he interjected himself into it," interject myself into what? It didn't exist before I put it out to you.
Okay, take us to because we're getting ahead of ourselves.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. We're just sitting on my couch rapping, man. That's all we're doing. So that the first night you get the call, as Well, let's just start there. I was going to refer something that Charles Halt said. You know what?
Right.
That's off the table for tonight.
All my drug use.
Yeah, no.
You know us music people.
Hey, I one thing I've never run from. I lived the '80s, man. So
didn't we just?
Yeah, exactly. So whatever.
I've never tried to be like I'm perfect, but I mean, just name your drug correctly. No, I'm kidding.
We've all seen those pictures of me, so therefore,
I have.
Yes,
I have too, Church.
So there you go.
Blackmailing. Oh, we all lived that stuff. In the 1920s, the jazz musicians, as you know, Jimmy, would have made any of us look like rank amateurs.
Yeah, totally.
And we're all blessed that we're still here. We're alive, and so many people aren't. And, we all made our own choices in life. I'm no stranger to a lot of things. I've lived life. I'm lucky I'm alive, and... But anyway, go ahead.
Well, the other day it was Jack Kerouac's birthday, and I'm thinking, we hold him in such high regard, and we do. He's a brilliant writer.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm thinking, he got away. We all knew what he did, but we just it's like we'll ignore that because he's Jack and he wrote On the Road. But
absolutely.
But oh man, can you imagine the way him and Hunter S. Thompson? I mean, they woke up in the morning and they got started. They got started when they woke up, and they did it until they passed out. So anyway, take me to that first night. You get the phone call. I take it you were already on duty. You're in uniform. You're at your post.
On the night when when I was involved. Now, is that what you want to know about?
Yes.
Went out to the woods. Okay, well, we have guard mount where you're checked, and that's at Central Security Control, and you're given your weapon, and for the night, your post assignment. And that was our first, we were new, so you'd be checked on a little bit more, and it's on-the-job training. That's all. Your whole Air Force career would be that way. And I have all my records. I stole so many of them. And thank God I did, because so many got vaporized and classified. I didn't know. I mean, there was no textbook to do this. I never thought any of this would come out. I never imagined this would happen, but it did. And we got posted, and I had no idea about previous activity. Second night was Bonnie Tamplin, the lieutenant. When they say, Halt, I was never with Colonel Halt's party, ever at all. Johnny Burroughs, I showed him John right exactly where he was parked this year, and we were right there in the forest, and he was with Chris Arnold, and they wouldn't let him forward. But all that stuff with John when he joined Halt, that happened after we were pulled away and pulled back and left. But John has 14 hours of missing time after that. I don't remember leaving the field and getting back to the base because the sun was up, and that can't be right. And it was only because of Johnny Burroughs saying he lost 14 hours on this new show we did, UFO Declassified.
Right.
Is that I'm like, wait a minute, it's funny. I don't remember. I remember going back to this clearing area where the trucks and the light-oils were. I don't remember after that. And all of a sudden it's sunny, and there's something missing there, too. And that show triggered it. And it's funny that, the little things you miss. So we did our job. I was on no more than about 15 minutes or so on my post, which was Perimeter 18. And there was, we have a SpeakAds tower in the weapons storage area. And that could see the Rendlesham Forest. Still didn't know the name of the damn forest. It was just the woods. It was not an important thing to us if we were based there. It was just trees, and they were used as cover and all that. As far as commission, it was not a big deal to us. And I started hearing the lights are back again, and then people asking directions on them because the tower was seeing the lights. I couldn't see anything from my position where the post I was on. It was not an important post. It was only manned during alerts again. So I was told I was going to be picked up on the radio. We had 4 channels of security police, I think it was. And I was Lieutenant England. Bruce England picked me up. He was the passenger in the pickup truck. Sergeant Pastinza was driving. 3 other guys in the back. I got on the back. Open pickup truck, by the way. And one of them was a the retired copper out your way. And there's a lot of people that don't talk, and but they do, you know what I mean? And we headed off, and we tried to gas up these Lidl things, which they put on when they're tarmac, when they're refueling aircraft at night, and they're little trailers with 2 spotlights like Hollywood. And we put them on the back of the... I didn't know what the hell I was doing with any of this stuff. I never was air maintenance stuff. And there were arguments over gas meters with the Bastinza, remember that, with the gas meter, the gas pumps or something. There was something weird going on. And then we met other people, and they were desperately trying to reach the base CO. And that would have been Gordon Williams. There's no way he would not have been curious what was going on. 3 nights in, he's the wing commander.
Right.
Who, by the way, handled my discharge personally. And I'll say this right now, and I know this for a fact because a 2-star general told me from the Air Force, who's friends with him. Wing commanders do not handle airman no-marks discharges. They don't handle discharges. It's not their remit. Gordon Williams handled mine. That's a fact. Right? So I knew who I was dealing with. I was his bodyguard of his change of command. That was Hangar 74. And when he got his general, his 1-star, and... so I knew who he was. There was a lot of people out in these forests, you know. And we went out in the woods, and there was a red light, very quickly, because you can read different accounts. It was not the Orford Lighthouse, okay? They always try to, this science bozo over here said we saw a lighthouse. And they still do it in England. They always still do it. In the BBC, they have these sideways glances when they're laughing. I'll tell you, they don't want me on their show there. I'll tell you. We got thrown off the BBC, though, didn't we, Pete, some years ago?
We did.
They had nuclear weapons secretly housed.
It was an awkward moment, but proud of it.
When the engineer, it was also awkward when we were in Wales and you said it was nice to be in that part of England.
I've made some world-class screw-ups, please. A lot of people think I'm pretty smooth.
Because, well, you two were scruffy. Oh, that was nice. We've never been back to Wales, by the way.
No, I'd love to return.
Went on, Jim, and long story short, because I want Peter to come in on it. It's good to talk with you here, but anyone read the accounts, I can't put into words. I can't do justice to what I saw. The guy, I was with a lot of guys. This was all filmed and photographed. An object came in from south of the Orford Lighthouse. There used to be nothing happening in the field I described. Now, everybody's stuff happened, and it keeps moving every year an inch closer to where I saw. I love it, man. It's just so transparent. You know, there's so many landing sites out there. It was like a drive-in movie for these things. I've always known where I saw this thing on the ground. I don't know what it was. Movement was not normal. Your mindset was not normal. Everything seemed staged in a way. And I use that word wrong, but it just seemed very artificial. Your mentality, one step out of your body, and it's 1,000 years ago, and it's like a movie I once saw. But it was there because I got the damage, and the other guys do too. And it was a triangular object, just like that picture, but it was like rainbow effects and all kind of things going on with it. And it was on land. I don't know if it was on landing. I just couldn't believe it was in front of me. Some people ran. But it was documented. These events were documented, and the proof of that matter is some years later, CNN did its highest-rated special assignment at that time, and Mike Verana, who was the captain, said, we drove the base commander to a waiting aircraft, and I said, what's in it? He said, we have actual motion picture of the UFO. It was passed to the pilot, and he said, where is it going? And the commander said, Williams said, Germany. And that's him, Mike Verano, saying it on CNN. I know, because I was the guy that sent the press to all the witnesses. Had I know who went through it all. And so I can't describe, and really I hate getting bogged down in what I did or did not see, because I don't know what I saw. I never said it was an alien spaceship. I wouldn't know what one looks like, but it's something. There was someone else there. Now, the time travel things, if that works for someone, have at it. I felt nothing human from this. With what I saw was nothing was not human. And if it was a military experiment or some kind of, well, they did a pretty good job. Though I will say, in my personal life, I've had experiences with things that don't even resemble it. Rendlesham was very unique, very different kind of. Personally, I think it was a mixture of an experiment with the government of ours, quiet time of year, heavy test environment there. John Burroughs done a lot of good work on that. And it was a capture mission. They brought this stuff through some kind of a window, and they try to document it and see how it interacts around, captives like us, because we're under the UCMJ, and that's civilian law. And it was quiet time of year at Christmas, though we had a lot of contractors living in, which is unusual in the area. And I think they were part of it, and I think they were the people that were removed in a C-130 that Halt couldn't even approach, and I think has said as much. And I remember that there. They had their own security team, and they were in and out of the forest. And I think a lot of that was removing this operation where it was all documented, and then the suppression of it came after, and that's where the human rights violation goes on. But I think we're all put in place. That's what I'm trying to say. I think this thing was underway as early as the summer of 1980, and I don't think it was any accident. A number of us were there. Not in a woo-woo, new agey kind of way.
Right.
I mean, in a real federale kind of way, where because of predisposition some of us had from birth, some very there's some of us, you might think are so different, some of the high-profile witnesses. What I found is the similarities are terrifying, very terrifying little things that I won't go into here because it's personal to them. But there's a lot more to this than I'll ever know, they'll ever know.
When you did the drawing, I want to address that because it was always curious to me. It looks like you really intentionally tried to recreate the surface of what you were seeing to the best of your ability. I mean, it's hard. Well, you're an artist now. I don't know if you were an artist then. But
no, Jimmy, are you talking about the color drawing or the black and white
drawing? The black
drawing?
And white.
Okay.
The black and white. It looks like you were really trying to, I don't know if I don't want to ask a really long question. I want to make this really short. What were you trying to illustrate in the black and white one with the texture of the ship? Because in the 810 photograph, I almost see that there too as well. What is it that you were trying to illustrate and show us?
There were, if I can think of this thing, it distorted all the time. But there were boxes and angles and depths and rises throughout it, and it just kept changing. And, when I say I saw, and others did too, I'm not the only one that saw this life form, by the way. There's a million reasons why that's... But that didn't come out a door or anything. Do you ever blow, the kids blow those giant bubbles? It's taken me almost 35 years to really figure out how to describe it. It's separated away from this phenomena. I call it was structure to it, and yet it looks like you could put your hand through it, this object, this craft thing. And it was like if you blow a bubble, and that bubble comes off it, and then it was separate, and that's where those three things were, and they separate. But if you see a recreation of that on television, it looks like a French mime troupe, dancing in the field. It's a shame because it didn't look like the great. It was like ghosts that I can't describe, and that and. I don't like it either, I'm sorry, but, I didn't ask for any of this either. And,
all right, let me ask it, Larry, I always thought when I saw the black and white drawing, I always thought of maybe fish scales, and you just said boxes. Is that, can you kind of...
Yeah, it was a very rough surface, and there were things... Not fish scales. It's a kind of a good lure. It's just the words and to describe these things. And I think that boxes everyone in. They said, "Well, you said that." It's so hard to describe. It was there were raised surfaces and lower surfaces and deep angles, and it's just, folks. It's hard to, what can you say? It wasn't a smooth flying saucer. like everyone, the friendly kind from Ed Wood, Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, because that's exactly what, when I see it, it just looks so different to me. It's not like you just said. It's not a flying saucer. It's not just a circular. You really went in, you tried to get this idea across, because it must have taken you a long time to draw those little squares.
Well, I can remember doing that, and that was in late 1982 in Cheshire, Connecticut, at Betty Andreasen and her husband Bob's house, and she's the subject of the Raymond Fowler book, The Andreasen Affair. And I sat down, and we were having coffee and whatever, and I just needed to talk to people other than my family about what happened. And I saw an article in the Hartford Courant, and I said, oh, what crazy people, and then it listed where her husband worked, and I said, I got to see it. I had oral surgery then, and we went over, and they had asked me, Betty had asked me, and I was not an artist then, had asked me to draw, and I can remember doing it on her coffee table, but I never finished the front end as it comes out towards you, because our subject matter changed in the conversation. And and that picture somehow ended up on the News of the World, which we never sent it to them. We sent the Halt document to England to assist researchers. They always credit the News of the World. It's a sleaze paper, by the way. But it did break. The story did not break. The story break. I was putting it out in the States, but it broke in England in the News of the World in '83. But they used that picture, they used the Halt document, and we sent that to them. And they called me Art Wallace and all that BS, which I didn't even interview with them. I think I talked to this Keith Beebe for like 5 minutes, maybe. And it's a tabloid. So, and there was boobs on page 3. So there you go. Rendlesham and that. So, but it did launch the ship. But that memo, Halt's memo, was sold for 25,000 1982 English pounds. That's a house there, baby, back then.
Yep.
And we just sent it over to help people out. It's just human nature. You see the worst human nature, Jimmy, in Rendlesham. I mean, you want to look at the big ugly. It's terrible. I think there's a lot of some people out there, I know some great people in that work. I don't consider myself part of ufology. I never did. I'm kind of a outsider to that kind of thing. It gets a little much. You got to walk from this stuff sometimes. But I always enjoyed. I didn't pursue. I only kept doing these conferences because I got asked, and it was to spread the word. I can remember. Can be controversial.
Sure.
Linda Howe, darling, I remember when you wanted nothing to do with this throughout the whole '80s, and now you can't get yourself away from it. It's like a good dinner date. It's shameful, I'm telling you. And this religious reverence for some of these folks. Nice lady, she's got an Emmy Award. I don't. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of. I got to be careful of my words here, and I'm not just saying her. We have plenty of that over here also, in England. And maybe I rub people the wrong way. I don't know. I think Linda played a nasty joke. John did, and messing with my co-author on an issue that's all going to come out. I don't care. It's gonna. And, there's a lot of disingenuous stuff that goes on. I think that's why a lot of people kind of look at Rendlesham. And, hey, look, I'm no saint either, but I'm straight up. I'm not going to play anyone behind their backs. But I'm not part of ufology.
Yeah, well, I think
to be at all.
What I think a lot of it
I
is.
owe it nothing.
You're right. Well,
I owe it nothing with a big Zippo lighter. Nothing.
Larry, what I think is with Rendlesham. There's some things about Rendlesham that make it completely different than everything else. Number one, it's a modern case. All of the witnesses are still alive. It deals with the military. So, and we know something happened there for 2 or 3 days, and the government is involved. And so, I think that I don't think it's being disingenuous. I don't think there's ill will. What I think is everybody knows that we can get to this truth, and we're all scrambling because we know that something happened there. And before it gets away from us, I think that all of us are really trying desperately to get the one little piece of smoking gun that absolutely blows this whole thing out of the water. That's what I think. And I think all the researchers out there, myself included, man, I would love to be that guy. I would love to be that guy to break this.
I just did the right thing, I thought, but I never had support from any of them. I'll tell you who I did. Alan Hynek, Bruce Maccabee, Bud Hopkins,
Peter Robbins.
John Mack. Oh, Peter Robbins. Who's that?
I don't know. I
Hey,
heard...
without Peter Robbins, let me tell you what. He's the person that should be getting Researcher of the Year or whatever the hell these conferences spin off for each other. That guy should, because you know what? Peter Robbins has always had the well-being of all the participants, even when they haven't been so kind to us, in his heart and in his position. And as I have, I mean, listen, like I said, I owe no one. I owe my co-author, I owe my family, I owe my son, but I owe Ufology nothing. And I'll say that. It's not bitter. I owe it nothing, because all I had was disrespect, from some people that smile at your face, and you know who you are out there, too. It's not bitterness. I'm very proud of what I did. I think I'm recognized for being the guy that got it out, and I can live with that and just put a big period on it. But don't write lies about me or my co-author. Don't spin what happened to me. If people kept my account right, I'd vanish. I'd happily walk from this and paint paintings. I love art. I'm selling them now. I would go. I don't need to do conferences. I don't want to get into politics about this stuff. I know UFOs exist. If you don't know it, that's your problem. I know it does. I know it's real, and I know it ain't from here. Where it's from, I don't know. Rendlesham has one of them that does know it all. Good for him.
Well, without Rendlesham, Larry, you and I will not have been able to go to the Rainbow, next year. So always remember that.
No.
Always remember that.
You know what? I do. And I want to go up where all the Hollywood vampires hung out.
That's a whole nother show, man. That's that's a whole nother show. This is KJCR. This is JimmyChurchRadio.com. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. On the planet KGRA, we are talking with Larry Warren live from Liverpool, United Kingdom, and with Peter Robbins, who's gotten 5 words in tonight, and he is live from New York. Okay, a couple of things.
Peter now. Let Peter go, please.
We're going to do Peter at the top of the hour. Right now, Larry, it's about you and I. That's Larry, let me ask you this. And this is something that I have tried to drive home with all of the other perpetrators, all the other perps in on this. Is this. We are talking about 2 or 3 separate incidents here. And 2 or 3 different nights, 2 or 3 different groups of people. Some overlap, some haven't. Now, is there a possibility? I'm going to ask you some direct questions. Did you look eyeball to eyeball with Peniston or Burroughs at all on the 3rd night? Did you guys ever connect eyeball to eyeball?
Well, Jim Peniston wasn't involved at all on the 3rd night.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, I've never, ever, I didn't even know Peniston had anything happen.
Okay.
That was 2 nights. John was in civilian clothes, like Halt asked me how many years ago we meet him? 20 years ago.
Right.
And when we went out, we brought lighting equipment. So I know who I was with. There was Greg Badger, there was, Bruce England. I'm naming people that have actually come out and said yes, and that, these are, yes, this happened. It doesn't matter if John locked eyes with me or not. I walked right by him. But he was with a guy named Chris Arnold who said nothing happened, and John never left his side. But I didn't know why he was out there. But they wouldn't let... Oh, good Lord, this cold got me. But... I don't need any validation from those 2. I understand what you're saying, but no, Peniston, I have nothing to do with his thing. He has nothing to do with my thing. John was right next to him. I never saw this thing that
That he saw.
Jim Drew.
Right,
no,
right.
Not at all. Not
And so this is back to my point. We're talking, 2 or 3, it's 3 nights, 2 or 3 nights of incidents. Yeah, 3 nights. And groups of people were all over the place. I know that Burroughs said, he told me he was in his civvies. He went back. He heard about it. He wanted to go check it out on the 3rd night. Now, so on that 3rd night, when they say, well, we never saw Larry there, right? We never saw, of course.
You'd be surprised because John and I were together this past September, and we went right out in the woods where the stuff, how it was laid down. I said, well, why would we go off in the woods? He said, because there was a fence. It was very interesting. There was a fence, I guess, back then that I didn't even know about because I always wondered why we cut into the woods.
Right.
Jim he didn't see me anywhere. He wouldn't have. He should shut his mouth. He has nothing to do with my night.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
I wasn't with him. I don't talk about what he saw
right.
and his friends from the future. I have nothing to do with that. Good for him.
You're right.
Shut up. Just stop it.
Well,
John, we were together, and we put a few things together. John wasn't even on duty, but I will say this, and Peter will remember because Peter was there. We were in D.C. sitting down with Halt and Mr. Halt, and what year was it, Peter? 1992? I don't remember. It was so long
2 or
ago.
3. I have to look at it.
And he goes like this. He goes, and I said, I saw Burroughs, and he goes, oh, what was he wearing? And I said, he was in civvies. And he just didn't answer because he's a crafty old fox. But I was right, and I knew he was. He was a real tall guy, John. He's not.
He's a tall drink of water. Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah, he's
a
very
big
tall. And he probably gets sick of all that tall stuff. But he's a big dude.
Right.
But I'm 5'8", but there were a lot of people. The guy that brought you got to understand the dynamics with this. The dirty politics. There's a guy named Chris Arnold. He was another law enforcement guy, and he brought John out on the 3rd night. John, they parked in this clearing, and I knew where they were. And John was riled up, and Chris came out in about 2000 and said, nothing happened, and John never left my side, and he's lying. I mean, this is one of his own, right? And John ain't lying, I know that. But, this is one of his own. And this guy, and John told me, it's funny, Chris Arnold snapped pictures and panicked and freaked out. If nothing happened, what were you taking pictures of? No, I didn't see it, but I saw Chris out there. He lived right across the hall from me. He was a guitar, he had a nice old Strat. I forget the year, but anyway. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah,
but,
pre-'80s Strat is a pretty nice Strat.
But he was a twerp, man. He going after John. John's a good guy. John went through a lot. I'm not going to say Jim didn't go through a lot. I don't go near Jim's thing. It's the people that follow his thing. I'm not saying him. The people that he's drawn in are a little bit Jim Jones past the Kool-Aid for my taste, and they make me nervous. It's become a bit of a cult, and I worry about that because, if you can't deliver, I've had 2 people try to kill me with this stuff.
We've got about.
I had to get involved, man. It's that real. There's some real unscrewed folks running around. Pete was there for one of them when the guy was going to get me in Florida, and thank God I had a guy, Jimmy Moorhead, there. And then this guy traveling into Connecticut to shoot me because I wouldn't go on the Pat Robertson show. True.
Well, we're about 4 minutes. We're about 4 minutes from a break. So let me get one question in really quick before the break, which is, what about the debriefing? Do you think that all of you yourself included, there was some mind control or the possibility of drugs that were involved and manipulation of your memories? All of you?
Absolutely. I do 100%. And I with all of us, all of us, there was, even Halt says I was meddled with, and yet then he'll go and say, and by the way, he did say I was involved in 2010, then now he's back to saying I'm a wannabe and a member of the Beatles. Thank you. I know. We're not making this up, folks. This stuff gets said, and it's for a reason. You must understand. These things are thrown out there to make you think of people like myself as, I ain't going near that. And they don't want you going near this for a reason. But I don't want too many people going near me anyway, you see. I just do what I do. I have a family. I do get worried with this stuff a little bit. You know, my head is, I'm the same, believe it or not, same kind of person.
Well, with all of the missing time that all of you guys have, all of you have the same experiences.
All of us do,
Do you think, did you, the day after the event, was it gone from the word go, or did they just erase it a couple of days later in the debriefing?
My situation happened where I have, which probably happened to me. You get an impression from a part of this experience. I probably shouldn't even have put it in the book, and we've explored it with the late Bud Hopkins in a hypnosis thing. Mr. Halt's very familiar with the tape because Leslie Keene found her way after Bud passed away how to manipulate someone and get a hold of my personal tape just so he could get 4 names on it. I hope you're happy with them, folks. Class acts. But I think it was done with sodium amytal, a combination of drugs and hypnosis, and a tried and true tested MK Ultra kind of way. I don't think that ever stopped. I think it evolved. And and that would probably for me, not in the debriefing, that would be the next day where I got grabbed with Sergeant Bustinza. There's all subjective different things that happen to different people, and for a reason. But was I sent out to be Mr. Disinformation and this and that? Can you imagine someone just hearing about this, getting every detail right, and then run around the rest of their life? Oh, man. But I'd rather now, sometimes people say, oh, it must have been amazing. I say, I wish it was you. I wish it was me listening to you. It's the older you get a little bit, we might have damage from this that could... there's no question we do. We have post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm a poster boy for it. Textbook. Peniston, Burroughs, even Mr. Halt.
Right.
And you can go right down the list. I mean, it truly is a... And...
well, let me jump in.
I think there's a lot of guilt with... I think the officers have guilt with what happened to us, and they couldn't contain it or control it or keep them away from us.
We're up against a break. Hold it right there, Larry. This is Fade to Black. Larry Warren, Peter Robbins. We'll get Peter in after this break.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hi, Ray Sobbs here with KGRA. Spring is just around the corner here in Northwest Arkansas, and that means it's almost time for the 28th Annual Ozark Mountain UFO Conference, continuing a time-honored tradition of bringing thought-provoking information about other worlds around us. Join me and the KGRA crew April 10th through the 12th in beautiful Eureka Springs, Arkansas for another great lineup of speakers, including investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, the National UFO Reporting Center's Peter Davenport, returning to Ozark as this year's keynote speaker, author and American historian Richard Dolan, and many more. The KGRA will be there broadcasting live all weekend. Register and reserve your seating early and pick up a free membership from the KGRA and Ozark Mountain Publishing. Visit www.ozarkufoconference.com for tickets and information. That's ozarkufoconference.com.
Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. JimmyChurchRadio.com on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Talking with Larry Warren live from the UK and Peter Robbins. Peter, when did you first get wind of Rendlesham and how did you get hooked up with Larry? I've never asked you that. How did that come about?
Yeah, simple story. The story broke on October 2nd, which was a Sunday, in the News of the World, now defunct, unfortunately, because of Rupert Murdoch and his team of crooks. But at the time, and for many years, the largest tabloid in the world. Within a matter of a week or two, folks like me who were in the work were getting wind that this story had broken in the UK, that Americans were involved. And, there were news clipping services. Lucas Farish ran one. We were starting to see the articles within a month or so. By the next year, we had the big, and Larry was referring to it earlier, the Westchester overflights, the Hudson River UFO sightings, the Great Triangles. And I went up there with Bud Hopkins. It was actually the day that I met Alan Hynek, ironically. I remember seeing Whitley there. I was there with another one of my mentors, Pete Mazzola. Also, Larry knew him well. A tough, no-nonsense New York City police detective who was also a crack UFO investigator. And it was in a high school auditorium. There were hundreds of people there, and I'm not exaggerating. And this was at the beginning of the video revolution. A lot of people had been taping what they were seeing. And there was one person after another. A farmer, a teacher, a librarian, a business person were getting up on that stage and demanding to know what the hell was flying over their properties and their county. There came a time when there was a break in the program. And I went outside. It was a nice afternoon, have a smoke. And as you do sometimes, I saw a knot of people kind of crowded around something. And I, out of curiosity, moved over to see what was going on. And there was a guy in the middle. I would describe him as an earnest young guy. He was well-dressed. He was well-spoken. And people were asking him questions. And it didn't take more than for me to hear two or three of the questions to realize, holy moly, this is that guy. This is the guy that, was under that pseudonym. And he had now come out under his real name. The silliness of the name that he had been assigned was gone by then.
I never used that name.
Yeah, of course not.
I never used it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here he was. And I really zoned in, not just on what he was saying. And he seemed to be doing his best, Jimmy, to answer people's questions as well as he could. And I'm looking between the lines, though. I am looking in body language, facial movements, eye movements. And I'm thinking after a while, he seems all there. He seems to be doing his best to answer these questions. I'm not picking up anything, nothing that makes me feel he's trying to be deceptive. And all I could think after a while, and it went on for some minutes, was this guy seems like the real deal. And if he is, he's either got an awful lot of courage or a certain amount of naivety, because you don't do this. I had met so many people at that point. I had been obsessed with the subject for a dozen years, who purported to be military witnesses, and it often came with a caveat of, I'm up here talking at the risk of my life, and the self-dramatization may be true, maybe not, nothing to back it up. This guy was different. And it was the damnedest thing, and years later, when we met in earnest, we both remembered this detail. Somebody came out of the high school and announced that the program was beginning again, and people started to drift away from Larry and head back in. And I waited until everybody was gone. And there we were. And I looked at him, and he looked at me. I guess we smiled at each other. I stuck out my hand, and I said, "Good luck, man." And he shook my hand, and he said, "Thanks." And I went back in. Jump ahead 4 years. It's now the summer of 1987. It's the weekend, the last weekend in June, the weekend before the 4th of July weekend. And MUFON is having not just a big, but a really super important annual international symposium. It's being held at American University in Washington, D.C. This is 87. It's marking the 40th anniversary of the Kenneth Arnold sightings. It's marking the 40th anniversary of Roswell, 40th anniversary of the so-called modern age of UFOs. It's a big deal. A lot of great speakers there. And Larry was one of the featured speakers. I didn't want to miss this. And I remembered, geez, this is the guy that I met back then. By then I was what I laughingly would call now. I thought I had some idea of what a case, and even catching myself using that word case. We're talking about human lives that were thrown asunder. It's being a writer, I get overly sensitive to words sometimes. A case is like, pinning a bug to a board or something. Anyway, I was scheduled to be on a panel discussion about abductions that Dave Jacobs was chairing. Kathy Davis, really named Debbie Jordan, a good friend of ours, the main person that Bud Hopkins' international bestseller Intruders was built around, was on the panel. So was Whitley, a number of high-profile abductees. I was on the panel in my role as Bud Hopkins' assistant and taking the point of view of growing up with an abductee in the family, my sister Helen. Well, I heard Larry speak, and not long into his talk, whoever it was representing MUFON walked up to him and said something in his ear. I wasn't in the front of the house, but I could see the guy visibly get angry. And he said something to the effect of, well, they just told me, I'm out of time. And he wasn't out of time, not by a long shot. And that's it, folks. And I'm going to, continue my talk out in the hallway. Anybody wants to hear it. And I don't know how many of us got up at that point.
I went out in the lawn and did that, Pete. I was outside.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, it was hot as hell, actually. But we were outside. As I remember, more than 100 people left the hall. It was not a pretty moment for MUFON, bless their hearts. And
I've never been back.
He finished his talk. And you know what? It was really, really compelling. It was sort of a version of what we've just been listening to. And I have to tell you, this is one of the best radio shows I've ever done, because, Jimmy, bless your heart, you've given Larry a chance not to talk in sound bites and not to keep cutting him off and asking him innocuous questions. You're giving him a chance to do what he does best, which is just to go and tell the truth about what he knows and what he's experienced. I have been enjoying not talking. And anybody that knows me knows that I can talk.
He's he's biting his lip so hard, Larry.
Pretty much. He's going to bleed. He's biting it so hard.
But let me ask the two of you.
I just want to finish the thought.
Okay, go ahead.
One more minute and it's yours.
Sure.
All I could think was, I want to do an interview with this guy. Now, as I now understand it, Larry heard me later that day in this panel discussion. I wasn't famous. I hadn't written a book, but I was coming from the heart. I know how to express myself. And he decided, he decided that's the guy I want to write the book with. Yep. And we ran into each other in the hallway the next day, the last day of the conference, which was Sunday, kind of introduced ourselves. I told him I'd like to interview him. He said, when? I said, well, when is good for you? He said, next weekend. And the next Friday, The 4th of July weekend, he came to New York City. He crashed on my couch for 2 days. We talked for like 12 straight hours. I recorded everything, got the interview of my life. And Sunday afternoon, I basically said, why did you do this? You've told me I can use this any way I want. You've given me information that you haven't talked about before. You don't want any money. What's your angle? And he proposed that we write a book together. And by the end of that day, before he went, he was back to Connecticut, and his wife, Cindy, we shook hands, and I was going to be an author. And I thought, whoopee, isn't this going to be interesting? Well, it was. And I got in over my head beyond anything I would have ever imagined. And had I known what I was getting into, you wouldn't be talking to me now. You'd be talking to Larry and the guy that he wrote Left at East Gate with.
Right. Now
that's how we met and got involved.
We have, I'm gonna keep you guys on late tonight. So we're gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna keep you an extra 10 or 15 minutes. And
No, we get paid extra for that.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Checks in
Beautiful.
the mail.
Well, there you go, man.
Checks in the
We're in it
mail
for the money.
Let's talk about Bud Hopkins for a second. Now, since you're in New York, I can only assume that the three of you, how often, or were the three of you together with at the same time?
We spent a lot of time together. However, I met Bud the year after I became obsessed with this subject.
Okay.
And the year after he became obsessed. We met in 1976. We were friends for 5 years as painters before he published Missing Time, the book that put him on the map.
Right.
Bud was one of my dearest friends for 35 years. And for half that time, easy, I worked as his assistant and confidant. Larry, who was a regular in New York, and for some of the time that our long 28-year friendship.
I met Bud in '83. And then I used to go to the support things, and when Peter and I worked on our book from a decade anyway, wasn't it?
87 to 96.
I knew Bud very well. He interviewed my mother in '84, which is, I'm so glad I have that of my mother's voice. She's still with us, but I mean, it's really nice. Bud's not with us anymore. And he was, there's a great part, and he's like, can I call your mom? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And it's a fantastic piece. And he says to her, he goes, so, Larry, this was out of order, unusual for Larry to go, say these kind of things. And she goes, no, he had things happen, but she goes, Bud, something happened to that boy, and that's a mother talking to him. Bud was a lovely guy. He was a good man, and there is are you heading toward the current?
No. I have a question about those sessions, though. May I?
Yeah.
May I?
Anything. Go ahead.
During one of your sessions with Bud, you had stated that you heard a conversation in an elevator going down to an underground base. But that session had ended before Hopkins could ask you what was said. Do you remember what was said, or have you ever covered it in another session? Or
no, I was only regressed by Bud one time. Let me get it right. If I'm not mistaken, he did twice, and one thing was a personal thing in life that I wanted to explore, and I don't really remember what came out of that. It's so long. And then the Rendlesham thing, I wanted to, it's funny, I don't know where you've gotten that, because I'll tell you the truth. My session with Bud, and Peter was there, I told Bud, because I thought hypnosis was BS, and worst skeptic too, I'm terrible. You'd be amazed. I'm just totally opposite of what people try to paint. And, I think they paint me as throwing TVs through windows and spending my weekends in brothels, which is a good idea, but I'm not in Amsterdam. On and on, just myths and ridiculous things. But I don't remember the session, so I'm curious how you know about that.
It's one of my intrepid producers, man. That's all. They do their research. And I thought that the question was interesting because of the reference to the underground base. What can you tell me about that part?
Well, there is probably a facility under the base. See, when Bud did the session with me, what happened is it produced 4 names, if I'm correct. in that session. That would have been the value. And I think I don't remember what I was saying. And I said, if you regress me, what will prove to me that I'm not just trying to please you or saying things is that I don't want to remember what I'm saying. Is that possible? And he said, yes, I'll give you that suggestion. Am I right on this, Pete? You were there. Peter?
Pete?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry to wake you up. And and so
very
he was
funny.
there. I know, but he was there, and but I don't remember it. And so, but there's a bit of a controversy with this because people sleazed out and got a hold of that tape. I didn't even have it. I didn't want it. And but there were 4 names, and Peter and I did not. Peter dealt with that end, didn't put them in the book out of courtesy of these people. And a certain person, with the help of another person, like Paul McCartney, Bud didn't choose women too well at the end of his life either. I'm going to leave it at that. And literally violated every sanctified thing about regression, hypnosis, about people's personal tapes.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Look. All of us, Larry, I'm going to jump in, and I just want to address this point directly. When you're under hypnosis, and I can only imagine that you are opening yourself up to stuff that is extremely personal. And of all of the others, I don't care about my personal doctor or back problems or foot problems or whatever. I got a hangnail. I don't care if people find that out. I really don't. But if I was ever regressed, that is some personal stuff that needs to be under lock and key forever. That part of whatever is revealed
there was a bad thing that's just happened.
And so we are all behind you on that.
But I'm not going to go into that one.
We don't need to. We don't need to.
But yes, and it puts everyone at risk. Bud was the most. Peter worked with Bud on all that material. I was Peter and I worked very close on this book, and I was at Bud's a lot. And I knew Linda from the Brooklyn Bridge thing, and I knew a lot of the players, and personally, and but Peter would not say a word. He would not say this person is. They worked with very famous people. You think Peter would tell me, guess who was down the old Bud's art studio today? No, never. And I wouldn't ask. You never find a more trustworthy person than Peter Robbins. And so Bud made not maybe with the girlfriend department, but when it came to a partnership partner with Peter Robbins, he made an excellent choice.
One thing about yes, and the one thing about Bud, I think I've talked to Peter about this before, but the one thing about Bud that we all, well, if you don't know it, but I think that we've all come to the conclusion with Bud. Bud was very critical about protecting the image of ufology, and with the with all of the bad parts about it, he didn't want to have fuel added to the fire to give it a more of a black eye than it's already has. And that was his life's mission, and he had no problems with calling people out. I mean, sometimes he was rather, he was just rather protective of it, and I respect him so much for that. So
he was just a nice guy. I look back on a lot of the great. I mean, listen, I sound negative, and I'm very comfortable on this show. A lot of these other kind of the small things you do, and bless all them people, you get trapped on tell me the flying saucer story, and did the aliens do this and that, and it becomes a big beast, that movie. It's important in this, and in 33 years, I did what I did. Rendlesham and About Me, and the subject is vast, and the history of the world is at stake with all this, not just Rendlesham. It's real. It goes on. And but I'm blessed. I knew a lot of people also, and some lifelong friends. And you can say, they're big names in this thing and all, but they're just really good people, and they've never hurt me. But there's, and then you got it, folks. You got to be careful with who you entrust things to out there, and some of these people that when the rainbows are flying out their butts, they're really not as nice as you think they are. And that's all I'm going to say. It's a public service announcement from Uncle Larry.
What do you... Laz laying it...
That's an English thing. They go the Laz thing. I don't know.
I love it. What do you remember? What do you remember from the sessions with Bud, the Rendlesham? Do you remember anything, or did it work?
No, nothing, Jim. Nothing.
Jimmy, I should.
Okay, so
I should tell you here that I was fairly regularly asked to be a witness, either by an individual undergoing hypnosis or by Bud, with the permission of the witness. I sat and witnessed Bud doing regressions more times than I can remember over more than 2 decades. I was there when Larry did his regressions, especially the important one, the second one. Bud was a terrific practitioner, and people go on about hypnosis and whether it works, it doesn't work, whether you mislead people. It all depends on the ethics and the skill of the practitioner, and that is what it comes down to. It was, for me, one of the most memorable afternoons of my adult life, because I had known Larry for 7 years at that point, and now we've been friends and colleagues and coworkers, soul brothers, for 28 years. That was the one
hard to believe, man.
window. Yeah. I guess there is such a thing as time travel. There was that one window where I didn't see this good, usually tough, straightforward guy. I was sitting there 3 feet away from an anxious 19-year-old United States Air Force security police officer who was having a very difficult time of it and doing his best to hold it together. And at that point, at the end, where Larry is being walked through a hallway by a military personnel and Air Force personnel and asked to open a door, and he goes in. And Bud asks him if there's anybody in the room. And Larry, I have been hypnotized too, and deeply regressed on 3 occasions. I know what it's like. In my case, I was 14 years old again, having that sighting with my sister, and it was an amazing experience. And Bud says, "Is there anybody there?" And Larry says, "Yes." It's all transcribed in our book. And Bud says, "Who?" And Larry names 4 guys, names that I knew for years at that point. And Bud and I looked at each other like, good God, what have we stumbled into here? And shortly thereafter, Larry had it, basically. And he said to Bud something that they had agreed on beforehand, which was, in this case, very literal and figurative. I think it was, "Get me out of here." And Bud got him out of the room and out of the regression and gave him the post-hypnotic suggestion that when he came out, he'd feel relaxed and he wouldn't remember. And, you know, then this was all recorded. He's given the tape, etc. So I can't tell you how angry I was when Mr. Halt, in the wrongest sense of the word, got hold of that tape. Those individuals, and in a 540-page book, by the way, with the foreword written by Bud Hopkins, and very, very flattering and supportive it was, that only 3 of us in the world knew who those 4 guys were. We don't even know if they know that they were, whether they have the memory of being in that room. And I wasn't going to be the one to tell them, and neither was Larry. And that when Bud died, there were only 2 of us, and we had forgotten. And I had to re-listen to that tape, but it was none of Mr. Halt's business who those people were. And, you know, it's one little tiny facet of the diamond of the darker side of Rendlesham. At the same time, as an investigative writer who loves research, I'm one of those people who is as comfortable in the field, I mean literally in the field, as I am in an archive, in a library, doing research, right here looking at my wall of books, pulling out something that was published 30 years ago to triangulate a fact, to support another fact, to create the kind of evidence the kind of pattern of evidence that you could bring to a court of law if our courts adjudicated such things, which of course they don't. But another point of frustration for me is the fact that the physical evidence, the documentary evidence, the scientific evidence backing up Larry's involvement, and site specific, by the way, to the precise location in the field that he had always said was the location, and certainly for the 7 months that I knew him before we actually went to that field, my first time, his first time since the event 8 years and 2 months earlier, the best physical evidence, the best documentary evidence, the best evidence for the reality of Rendlesham revolves around Larry Warren and the location that he names on the third night. I've published it and republished it. I've talked about it in my presentations. And people ignore it to a degree in the field. Yeah. And that's very frustrating.
Hey, Peter, you know, an interesting thing on ignoring. Man, I am the only UFO witness to ever officially lose his United States passport to keep me from going to Europe. That's was significant, very historically important. And it took Ramsey Clark, former U.S. Attorney General under 2 presidents, right?
Well, Assistant Attorney General under Kennedy, Attorney General under Johnson, and it certainly gave us an opportunity, gave me an opportunity to write one of the coolest chapters in the book.
You know, the main thing I'm saying is when that went down, man, ufologists weren't doing cartwheels. You know, it was I took a year. I lost my right, and I'm not a convicted felon to leave my country for speaking about sensitive defense issues on foreign soil in a public forum. And ufologists, maybe it was too far over their heads or something, or frightened them. I don't know. Just nothing. You know, like the evidence we have, not that I give a damn. I think people will see it for what it is. And there's plenty of evidences, but I'm not going to chase people to say, oh, please look at this. I could care less. You figure it out or you don't. You want to look at these, we have more evidence, and it can only help everybody. It's not about look at me. It's about it can help us all.
Just so.
But there's like all the little campsites now with the Girl Scouts and brownies with Rendlesham. You know, I'm sorry to say it's always going to be that way now.
Are they selling Rendlesham flying saucer cookies now, door to door? Is that what you're saying?
Probably. They got hash cookies for all the loonies running around the forest these days. They see Bigfoot in there and the sea serpents and you name it, that stuff's in that forest now. You know what is a big slap in the face to everything that happened to us? I don't find it amusing. I don't find it fun and entertaining, chasing orbs of light. And, you know, of course, lights are seeing this phenomena there, but it's become a bit of a circus. You'd have to come over and check it out, but it's a bit of a circus environment down there. A bit of a culty thing again. It's all turned.
We should work out a time sometime in the next year, Jimmy, when you can get over when I'm there and when Larry can come down and do a show from the area or a series of shows from the area.
Oh, that would be excellent.
We will give you an experience you'll never forget.
Let me get back to the 4 names.
Yeah.
Let me say this. The tape now is out there. It's going. Those 4 names are, you know,
Well, it's out there and it's not out there. Charles Halt, if he is smart and musters the decency, will never release that information. It would reflect very poorly on him as an honorably retired United States Air Force officer. It would be conduct unbecoming an Air Force officer or any officer. So it's out there, but it's not out there.
Peter, I've heard it is out there. And
really?
I think Jimmy knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. And
so there you go, Peter.
Well,
son of a bitch.
If you'd like it, brother.
So
if that is, then that is unconscionable.
What about the 4 names?
What about them?
Who were they?
Men who served with Larry.
Well, we know that.
You know, I'm not going to name them on the radio.
I have no idea. I don't remember what I said to him. I've never listened to the tape. See, all this started. Peter wanted, for some reason, to go find them names. And I said, well, I don't think I have the tape. And then Dave Jacobs had all of Bud's archives. And so I had Bud Jacobs contacted me, and I said, yeah, use them how you will. Now, that was my fault because I was so loose with it.
Right.
So what I did is he took that literally, and this is going to link into another nice thing. Yeah, I hear my tape is all over the place. My brother Peter Robbins, anyway. There you go. And I'm over in England, and I know it. People are really pissed off. I sure am. But
well, about those 4 names, why? And I understand why you guys, why you didn't put it in the book, and it's out of respect and so forth.
Yeah, Peter dealt with that end.
Yeah, I get that. Did you guys leave those 4 gentlemen out because? Why? Why did you leave?
Well,
them
that was my decision in a sense. Larry agreed with me. I transcribed all of the transcriptions that appear in the book. I had my headset on. I listened word for word. If Charles Halt wanted to hear the tape for himself to see if he could trip me up and whether or not I had left anything out, in which case he would have just cause to accuse me of either being a sloppy researcher or unethical.
Right.
I mean, it would have been very frustrating. Every semicolon is in place. It's letter perfect. However, my decision that Larry agreed with was I'm not going to put those 4 names in. I'm simply not, you read it and you know that there are names left out. It was nobody's business. It wasn't even our business in a way. It happened inadvertently. We stumbled into it as a quirk of fate in a deep regressive hypnosis. And once again, we don't know whether those men actually remember or whether they know that they were there. And so it set up a double awkward situation of, Larry, who knew these guys, I knew who they were, could have contacted them and said, hey, guess what? And thrown chaos into their life if they did not know that they had been taken and held, or remind them of something they didn't want to know, or make them feel that's none of your business. It was awkward.
I think we did the right thing keeping them names.
I do too.
Okay.
And it was just a small, like I said, little hits in the book because we had so much to accomplish with that book to get in it. And but the real issue here is not what it was the hypnosis. I don't remember the session. I remember doing it. I remember when we went. It was my choice. But I truly don't remember it. So that's where I kind of believe hypnosis might have something to it.
Let's hold it right there, Larry. Up against a break. We'll be back. This is Fade to Black. Larry Warren, Peter Robbins, bespoke radio for the masses. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
Attention, all Fadernauts. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All
right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, Game Changer Network, KGRA, The Planet. Big event tonight. Larry Warren, live from Liverpool. We have Peter Robbins live in New York. I'm here in Burbank. Larry, I wanted to ask you this. With your experiences when you were younger and the sightings that you've had, do you think that it wasn't a coincidence that you saw what you saw at Rendlesham? Do you think there's a connection there now that you've had so many years to reflect?
That's a great question. But that's where I get cautious, where I'm going to be another one that thinks he's special. I think there's some very, all you can do, the older you get, is you look at your life and you say, man, there's some really strange coincidence and strange things. And maybe for each of us, Jimmy, yourself, Peter, all kind of things in life. This has been my route. I mean, I'm not the only guy at Bentwaters. There was other guys, and I know a lot of them had previous events as children. Some other names have events as children, and I think they react against, some very heavy experiences, by the way. You see, people know who I am if they choose to. You don't know a lot of these other people. I don't know. I don't think I'm that important. I think we all have little missions in life that we start to go, that's what it's about, and then you die. Because you can't live here and know the game. So I don't know. I mean, I know UFOs, these things, or whatever you call it. What are they called? UAP now? That's a popular thing. And
that's a Liverpool thing, man.
Is that a Liverpool thing? Yeah. And drones is popular now. Everything's a drone. But, that stuff tires me out. I mean, there's things flying around. They build craft, and they're way advanced from us. And I don't think they're very here for our benefit either. But love and light and all that. But that's my view. The problem, I think, what we were saying before, I don't know. I have a son. I say, well, I don't understand the deal, and I just try to keep my boy open-minded and get him into really good. Like his first rock show was Kiss, thank God, and just keep him open-minded and a guy wanting to explore life and knowing all kind of things go on in this world. Look at that poor woman, what she's going through. That did the Bigfoot DNA. I don't care, frankly, if anyone laughs, but I saw Bigfoot with my mother in 1975. And it was July 7th. It was Ringo Starr's 35th birthday. We were on the New York State Thruway, and I saw a thing that was about 9 feet tall, reddish-brown, running 30 miles an hour with the traffic on the going toward Niagara Falls, where we're going. It was 100 degrees out, middle of the day, and it was chasing a deer with a big stick. And the thing ran upright, and it must have caught it, I guess, near this water in a barn. Traffic all pulled over, state police, everything, and this is New York State, they all have guns. And my mother and me looked at each other, and at the same time we said, Bigfoot. My sister was in the backseat, they could care less, didn't believe in whales even, but she didn't even look. But the thing ran as fast as the traffic, and you just felt, I shouldn't be seeing this. Now, this poor professor in genetics, and I just listened to this, and she is trying to get peer paper reviews on all these data banks on the genetic stuff, very complex, because they have 3 bars that show this thing is human. But it has markers that are unknown in any single source. Now, she says this could be another 20 years of research till it all comes around. But the scientific community fold up like bad deck chairs. They start calling the names. Christ almighty, I thought UFOs were bad, even just one big furry thing. Those people are vicious, too. It's the closed-mindedness. It's mind-blowing. So I wish that lady luck, because I know Bigfoot exists, too. Do I care if it sounds, that might hurt your Rendlesham credibility? I could care less what anyone thinks. Just quote me correctly. If you don't believe or what, good for you, man. Have a great life. But it's only about keeping it straight. And also this issue we're talking about with the regression. I wish I could say these other witnesses and I are dear friends and love and light, though I think people would be a little bit reticent to believe it if everything was so rosy. But and I hate bringing up our deputy base commander so often, but he's caused so much damn mischief over the years, saying I was in the Beatles and all these, like I thought that or whatever. And, it's just designed to make people look bad. And I think it's if he had asked me, can I listen to your tape, I probably would have said yes.
Well, I'll say this for Halt right now. He probably doesn't know the difference between the Beatles and Van Halen. Okay, so
no, but that's cool.
So,
it's not about. I'm not knocking him. I respect the service. All of that.
Sure.
Crap, but we're not kids, and I had to have a lawyer. Really, because he was a really well-liked on the base, well-liked guy. And he was friendly, and he was a colonel and everything. He was a really friendly guy. We were scared of officers. He was cool.
Did you?
I liked him just for that.
Well, you can tell. You can look at his face and tell that he was probably a pretty hip guy at one time.
Oh yeah. Well, we all were at one time, but it's not that. I hate it. Weren't we all? But you are hip, Jim. But it's just all these interpersonal ratty issues with people doing naughty things. And the tapes, I would have probably said, yeah, Mr. Hall, you want to listen to them, go for it. There's nothing I'm ashamed of. I just frankly don't remember them, and I don't want to hear it. I don't. That proved to me that Peter dealt with a bit of a transcript in the book. But if the underhanded thing with Leslie Keene, because she knew where Bud's material went, so she guided Mr. Halt to it. And Dave Jacobs I still haven't had gee, sorry, I took it too literally. It was like, oh, well, what the hell? I'm busy. I didn't know it was important. That brings me to another thing. Mr. Halt going on a radio show, a much lesser one than yours, James, and telling people he knows from a very close friend of mine. Peter, I think it should be said here, multiple substance user and abuser and multiple. And that's okay. And I've never been asked to go on that show to even defend myself. I work in a licensed industry. You can lose your job over these things. I'm divorced. I have a son. My ex, if you know me better, could say, oh, really? You're not seeing your boy. And, you think of the human issues that those things, to just flippantly say it. Well, I'm thinking, well, who could all this be? Well, in reality, David Jacobs again, because Halt called and asked him what he thought of. I don't care if I do conferences and people invite me or not because I'm too politically incorrect. This is just the truth. Halt called David Jacobs and said, well, give me, what do you think of Larry or whatever the hell he thought. I haven't seen Dave Jacobs in over 20 years. But, and Dave remembered a conversation he had with, Halt went on and said, one of Larry's close friends. Well, you know what? He was right. It turns out he was right. But, come ahead a little bit, I'm thinking, you bastards, I should be able to, forgive me, go on these shows and defend, but you're never allowed. Well, it turns out, I called Peter, we spoke, and he was very upset, and what it turned out is that my dear co-author in 1988, Mr. Halt only did this recently, saying I was on multiple substances, but in reality, my co-author, in a private conversation with David Jacobs, in 1988, when I was going through a real ugly divorce, Peter didn't know me very well. I was drinking for England. I occasionally was no stranger to other things in New York City at that time in the 80s. So maybe I was not being a good person to myself, drinking too much and all kinds of things. I've always had to watch the booze, definitely, and open about it. Stevie Ray Vaughan recovered alcoholic 3 years. He'd do a sermon on keeping and we all have our thing. But what it was, I've never said I'm a saint. You read my book, I look like a complete asshat throughout it half the time. I do.
Well, and, Larry, I read it today on the show. My mantra is every single day you are presented with two decisions. You can either do the right thing or the wrong thing. Something's coming up, and you need to make a crack decision. The easy way to go is do the right thing. And I'm telling you right now, with Halt, making that phone call, if that's indeed how he did it, you know what?
Well,
he knew he knew he was
Yeah.
doing the wrong thing. You just don't do that. Hang up the phone and stop before. Don't even ask about it, because it is just the wrong.
Can I just say is that yes, Charles Halt is right. That was a friend of mine. That was Peter Robbins. That was expressing his concern for my well-being in 1988 to another associate of his who we knew a lot better at that point, instead of this guy, doing the Keith Moon routine around New York City, which I worked in and out of for years before I even knew Peter anyway. And, and so you could fall into a lot of them traps. But it was Peter. Peter was heartbroken. He was like, it was me. And why David Jacobs, how many years is this since 88? Like 300 or something? When Halt calls him, hey, what about Larry? He goes, well, I think maybe he has a substance abuse problem. What? You're referencing a conversation that happened 28 years prior.
Yep.
Well,
I want to go.
Dave Jacobs, you owe me a bit of an apology too. I'm not out to be these people's friend, but Mr. Halt, you've been outed. So your big announcement is that the real friend of Larry's, telling he's a drug addict, is Peter Robbins. Well, you've just heard the truth of the matter, folks. So save yourself the flight to England, brother. I've taken that away from you. So,
well, at least in 1988, you had nice hair, so you can come. You can hang your head on. You can hang your head on that. Let me go back to let's discuss this tape for a little bit. Peter, is there anything there? You were there. You're 3 feet away, as you had stated. Is there anything there that is outlandishly embarrassing or crazy, or is going to out somebody, or is there? Is
you and everybody else can read the entire. Not a word or a syllable missed, except for those 8 words, those 4 names. You can read the entire transcript for yourself as Bud begins to speak to Larry as this 19-year-old security cop. It's all in Left at Eastgate.
That's right.
There's nothing in it that's weird. It's like a lot of hypnotic regressions. He is 100.
There is the part about the cross-dressing, though, so I do want to warn everyone.
Well, except for that.
I'm embarrassed, but I'm coming to grips with it nowadays.
Ixnay, Larry.
Which is exactly my point.
Well, humor has kept us alive through some very dark periods.
100%. Always.
Was there anything about Halt cross-dressing? How about that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No,
you just shut us up.
I will say this. Colonel Halt, his son, Chuck Jr., who must be a very grown-up person now, when he was much younger, and this is the kind of guy I am, some researchers in this country got hold of, my parents got divorced. I went through the bouncy council between the parents, and every child does. So I'm going to get that out on the table. But in the early 80s, when this coming out, so I'm not going to mention these people's names. They were early British researchers on Rendlesham Forest or Bentwaters. And they befriended Chuck Halt, who was a young boy, not a toddler. I think he was a young teenager, I guess. And they told me on a phone call, they said, we've got Colonel Halt's son at the house. And I go, you do? And they go, and maybe Mr. Halt should hear this. I'm sure he probably doesn't know it. And some of them are his pals that were behind this. And they said, we have Mr. Halt's, Colonel Halt's son. I'm like, well, why do you have Colonel Halt's son? Well, long story short, they got him drunk, a minor, drunk. And the plan was, because young Chuck his parents had split, and he wanted to, maybe he was arguing with his dad or had to take the garbage out too much, who knows. You know how it is with kids. This is nothing no one can relate to, anyone couldn't relate to. And they were going to put a bag on him. This is all true, folks, on my son's head, as we say.
Hold on for a second. Peter, quit typing. If you type again, you're disconnected. Okay, continue, Larry. I mean, geez, he's the loudest typer in the history of man.
Yeah, he's writing a new book, I guess.
Swear.
No, they and so what they did is they were going to put a bag on his head, film him with an video camera, and he was going to pretend he was a witness to the events, and then they were going to sell it to the news of the world because they were paying big money to these people at that time, and that the boy was manipulated into that, potentially doing that. Well, I said, well, do you have Mr. Chuck Jr. there? So the boy got on the phone with me, and I said, how you doing? He goes, my dad told me everything. And I go, my dad don't tell me everything about his job either. And I said, and he told me, well, I'm trying to get home and this and that. And, this is normal. It was family things going on. And I said, son, whatever you do, and there's a scene where they say in this something, I'm trying to dance around it, that we don't know what Chuck Jr. said to Art Wallace, but he left the house. He fled the house really quick. I said to him, not only are you going to get yourself in a world of hell with your old man, I said, you're going to get a lot of trouble at this, and I said, you're going to really bring problems on your father. And I said, this could be a legal thing. I said, I want you to do this. I said, can they hear you? And are they on another line? He said, no. I said, and Chuck Jr., if you're out there, you'll remember me doing this. I said, grab your stuff, get out of there, and go home. Back to his dad's house. They were in England still, living here. And that's true. And I saved Mr. Halt's family that embarrassment, and that was me.
Is that?
I wonder if his son ever told him that.
Is that part maybe why Charles wants to keep you out of this story? Could that be part of it?
Out there
but you understand what I'm saying. He's in the denial mode.
I mean, because I brought the story out in his document. I think we met with him in the early '90s, and he was all right. He was vexed. Never in the history of his time. I'm trying to quote him. He said the State Department or Department of Defense got back, when I mentioned your name, they get back to me quicker than anything in my career.
Yep, DOD, and that conversation is transcribed word for word as well.
Yeah, and John Burroughs told me when I was with him in September here, I had no idea. It was a little unnerving, the hell I raised when I blew the whistle on this thing. It was. He goes, Larry, you have no idea. He goes, it was from the top end of Washington. Who's Larry Warren? And John's base commander, who was a general, couldn't even ask John a question about anything. But he said, you caused I would have been whacked. I always say this. I think if it didn't just accidentally or whatever fall out the way it did, there was no plan to it. I just wanted to go talk to people in Cheshire and have coffee cake. And they happen to know this guy named Larry Fawcett. And, holy cow, I think I would have met an accident. I have no doubt about it at that point now. And I'm not a paranoid kind of guy. But I do think I wouldn't have had I would have been unscathed. Though I was attacked in '84 and fractured skull, and there was no answers to it. It was set up, and we don't know who did it. It was just almost killed me. Anyway, and it sounds all like it's from movies, but I mean, this thing does sound like it's from a movie if you live it. But the interpersonal stuff is more fascinating. I wouldn't believe it myself. And how it's affect everyone. We're all very different. Me and Peter are night and day. But we work off each other because we have that engine called sense of humor, shared family things. We've had family members die, and we know each other's families and births. He's an uncle to my son, and we don't say that loosely. It's the truth. It's, we're family.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Larry, but Peter just bought a Harley. I'm just letting you know. He's got a scooter.
Well, it's about time, my friend.
Yeah, I was going to break it to you when you came over the States and give you a ride, but
I love it.
No surprise now, baby.
This is, and it's good. What a relaxing show. I'm not mad at Colonel Halt or anybody in this. I just think some very unfortunate things. I know I wouldn't do it to someone. I'm not perfect, but these are some of the sneaky things. What his beef with me is, I think there's a little guilt, not just with me, I think with Because he says, I was meddled with. Why would you meddle with someone that wasn't involved? Why would you bring uninvolved people into something? You make the circle bigger. No one ever poses that question. But it's a very complicated series of events. And again, the only reason I stay in it, Jim, and I don't know what is it you're in, is to when things like the last two very sad issues I've just discussed happen, or when I'm misquoted, really badly too. And so you have to get it out. But I don't have the drive. John was like, we can't give up now. We can't. I go, John, I've been plowing the driveway years before you popped up. Fair play. I said, I don't have the fire anymore for it. My concern is my son growing up to be a secure, happy human being. Yep. And that's my concern. Rendlesham, where can it go? There's always things. Yes, I found that for me, but I'm afraid to say, folks, and I see this, it's a shame these guys can't just get together and, sell crystals at some hippie convention or so, because it ain't going to happen. And it will never happen now. There will never be all of us in one room doing anything ever, and it's not out of vindictiveness. I say it; it's a reality. It will never happen.
I haven't given up on that, and you and I have talked enough about it.
That. Yeah. If Halt has nothing to hide, I should be easy to just listen. We've sat together. I stared right in his eyes. I said, "Did you wear aviator glasses at night?" He wouldn't answer me, and I had a reason for asking him.
Really quick, we have 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left. Believe it or not, we have blown through 2.5 hours like it was nothing. But really quick, let me ask you: since that night at Rendlesham, have you had any other contact or possible contact with ET, or have you seen anything, or was that it? Did it end for you on that night?
It never ended, and I don't know if it's ET from outer space, but it's other dimensions. No, I have had, absolutely, I've had many, it's been a lifetime. It's not every day, and I have to say certain members of my family also, so it follows the bloodline. And hi, Lori Brooks in Texas, darling, I promised I'd say that, but no, it's never ended for me. And the dreams from Rendlesham, Halt's in mine sometime. He's dressed, but he's in the dreams sometimes. There's a joke there, but he is in the dreams. And, but no, I have seen things. I keep an eye out, and you get a feeling in the solar plexus when this stuff is around. Not too often now, but it's never ended. I didn't need Rendlesham, and I say that for a reason because I had things before, and I have things to this day. Yeah.
I have to thank the both of you personally. We worked really hard about for a long time to get this show together. Thank you so much, Larry. Thank you, Peter. And
Jimmy, thank you.
It was a pleasure, Jimmy, and we'd be glad to return to the show anytime that works for you, if your audience would like us to.
You know that. And again, we just ran out of time, and I knew that we would. and Larry and I, Peter, you can come and hang out with us, but Larry and I are going to do a music show here very soon. So we've got plans.
I've got gold records on my wall. I'm the only one of the three of us that has gold and platinum records, my own as well as my late sister's. That's another show, though.
Peter's trying to show us that he's cool, Larry.
Well, no, his sister wrote a lot of Blue Oyster Cult songs. His sister wrote for Blue Oyster Cult, man.
Oh, really? She wrote Godzilla?
Let me ask, which one of the three of us has actually sung "Don't Fear the Reaper" with the Blue Oyster Cult?
Oh man, I've got my own Buck Dharma stories, but that's a whole nother show. Hey, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Brother. Hey, all the best to you and your family, Jimmy. And thank you. And Peter, love to you. And we'll come back anytime, brother.
You guys have a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to both of you tomorrow. You know that. Thank you so much.
Blessings, man. Bye, guys.
Right back at you. Wow, what a show. We are up against it. Thank you. Thank you, all of you Fadernauts. Everything tonight. Spreaker's on fire. Twitter's been on fire. Email. I tried to get to everything, but this was a really big deal to me personally tonight. So, again, thank you, Larry Warren. Thank you, Peter Robbins. And I don't know if anybody caught that, but at the end of the show, Larry got in a Lori Brooks shout-out. Did everybody catch that? Did everybody catch the Lori Brooks shout-out? There you go. Again, thank you, guys. This was a really big night for us and everybody here. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you, Larry Warren. Thank you, Peter Robbins. Oh, Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Carrie Cassidy is going to be with us. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar. Thanks to LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Viteau, and Mark D. Kovar. Fadey by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music by Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night, Carrie Cassidy. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I just got to say, this is the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Everybody behave. Do the right thing. See ya.